Okay. Open the screen up. Turn off the stream on the other. Everything appears to be operating. If you're on Facebook, I'm not sure if you can comment. I'm gonna open up my studio page, so I only have that open. I'm not getting any inward sound, and I hope that's going to be all right. Hello, everybody. It's Francis. I'm really not getting any feedback sound in my mic, in my ears. I hope that's going to be all right. Mute mic. I don't want to mute it. Let's go over to chat. There's a private chat. Comments over here. Oh, morning, Jersey. Morning. You know I can always count on you. You're like the number one. You're number one. The number one YouTube guy. I really appreciate it. Sound is a bit coffee canish sound, but getting clearer. You let me know. I hope that it picks up and is clear enough that it's not coffee canish. This is my first. This is my first go round, and we're going to put Avi on the stage too. So we're going to hopefully have fun because there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on. Yep, good audio and video, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. I hope you're doing great. Hey, you see one of these books? We're going to give away one of these books back here at the end of the show. You're on the list for sure. Your name's in the hat for sure. I really appreciate you. But what's going on today? What's going on today has been what's been going on for. Since 2017, we've been talking with Avi Loeb about interstellar objects, and I asked for this interview about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and of course, I've been personally, I've been working my job pretty hard. I had a big project for the last 5 months, and I put in a lot of time, and I was successful with that project, which was great, and that is passed now. And I lined up this interview because we just passed last week. I lined this interview right up, so I got this next thing that I've got to accomplish and conquer, and a lot of things are going to fall together and make this great, a great first reappearance of Collision Course, because I want to roll this up. I already got our next interview with Jim LeBlanc, the NASA astronaut. I don't know if you remember him. He's the astronaut who went into the vacuum chamber testing a spacesuit because he was one of the engineers developing the spacesuits for the space race. And he went into the vacuum chamber, and most of us, I'm sure, seen it, had a little mishap. And we'll be talking to Jim because I made a post on Facebook about UAPs, and he come on and he said, yeah, the government, something that made my thoughts go like, I need to talk to Jim about UFOs. I talked to him the first time about spacesuits and vacuum chambers, but I'm going to need to talk to Jim LeBlanc and see if he can bring up some 1960s UAP activity and dive into that. But today we got Avi. Avi, I had posted a video. Okay, let me stop here. I posted a video. When I had this big project for the last 5 months, it required a lot of technical information. Had to do with welding procedures and getting a shop up to code so that it could pass an inspection. Basically, that's what it was. And no one on site was actually had the experience and had shown capability to do that work. My previous employer had given me all that experience, and so I was quickly switched over to that role of taking care of this inspection, and we successfully did it with a lot of overtime and a lot of work, and producing, developing weld procedures, and getting welders certified, and getting cranes, hoists, and everything from the bottom up. And where the hell was I going? Oh, here I am. And so during this process, I utilized AI. AI was a tremendous assistant. In fact, I don't think without the AI, I would have been no, I would have been successful, but I wouldn't have been as successful. I was more successful because of my interaction with AI and its ability to come out with coded information and for me to utilize that in the documents that I needed. To segue into putting videos on YouTube that are created by AI. Yes, I have been doing that. I've been doing that for Collision Course, and I've been doing that for another page on YouTube. First off, I want to say that some folks, there's a pocket, there's a genre, there's an audience who doesn't respect AI videos at all. They see them as not this one-on-one personal connection. But I have to say that AI videos allow the person who's prompting the IAs, because it still takes me to get into AI to prompt the questions. Then the AI gets to go develop the answers utilizing the immensity of information that's online, and has the ability to organize it and present it back to me, the lesser intelligent at the time per person. I mean, I don't know how I want to take that. I'm as intelligent as I'm going to get. The use of AI is only going to make me smarter, and that's what I found out. And so when I go in, I want to make an AI video, and I want to make it on one topic or the next. You can create the videos in a bunch of different ways. You can, of course, let AI create a whole video and just boom. But then you can go out and you can utilize documents that are already online that are scientific. Maybe they're a transcript, maybe they're a report, maybe they are a document, maybe they're a research paper. There ain't nothing stopping me from going and copy and pasting that whole document, dropping it into the AI video creator, and just say to follow the script, and they'll just follow the script, and what you get is a video of the document. And I can't give that to you. I can't give that to you, and I can't make someone want to read a document. Take you know the much longer amount of time it takes to read the document than it actually does to listen to the document. So I catch heat about AI videos, and I'm just going to wash that aside and say there's a lot of information I would never be able to touch if I didn't send that thing out there to go touch it. So that's going to get by the AI part, because I think it's important. I think people who are dishing AI videos are looking at it from the side that, oh, that person's only doing AI to make money off faceless videos. And yeah, they're being abused, I guess. And I've found that I could quickly do that if I create 3 prompted videos morning, noon, and night over at my other channel. I can drive a lot of traffic, and I can go from 0 subscribers to enough subscribers to become a partner on YouTube within the year. It's still work, but it still can be done, and using AI videos that way. But then again, my other channels is specific to a certain topic niche also, so it's got a keyword that is hot, and it'll drive certain people to that keyword. It's a hot one. Gold is the keyword. And so on with the show. You do have the ability over on YouTube to leave a comment, and I'll see it here in my StreamYard. We are streaming this live on YouTube and a couple different places on Facebook using StreamYard. I love it. They have a great paid service where you get a dashboard that allows you to do different things and create different scenarios and ticker tape and name in there. And hopefully what's going to happen, Avi has the address to come into the studio, and I'll put them on and we'll do a split screen, and hopefully that's going to work out great. But I can do a lot of things. Give me a skill. I can take myself. And hopefully this is all going to work as easy as it is, and I have Jersey, you can tell me if you can hear that.
It's essential for our survival to use these powerful tools in the most humane and wise way. And the only way to guarantee that is not to shuffle the responsibility off to somebody else, but to make sure that every citizen understands science and technology to some extent.
Lighten up, Francis.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us.
I love this.
And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. Down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me.
Love those intros. Love it. Love it. I can show your comments too, Judy. I can show that one. And we'll ask that question, of course. And I have that here, and I can just click on it. And I can show that question just like that. And Abby should be able to see it. Abby should be able to see everything I see. Hopefully it all stays that way. Now I've got an hour and 45 minutes until we actually have Abby on. I am just going to stream through the may turn off the mic and leave one of the pictures up. Anybody who comes to the stream can leave a question as a comment, and we'll get them up and we'll get them questioned. I hope that we have great fun today, because this seems to be an awesome service for me to use, because it makes it so easy. And I want to do live shows. I don't want to do broadcasts. I want to do live. And I wasn't able to figure out how to get the show live as easy as I am now. And I'm able to do it on 3 different platforms. And I'm going to hook up more. I'm going to hook up X. I'm going to hook up Insta. Right now we're on YouTube Collision Course, Francis Walsh. The Perfect Minds, we're on Francis Walsh on Facebook. Fuzzy Was Here, and then we're on Collision Course 321 on Facebook. And we hope that everyone who's watching us, wherever you're watching us, is going to have a great day, is having a great day. I'm having a great day so far. I hope you are too. I don't know, can I add another place? Change schedule time. I don't know if I can add. Let's see, add another destination Facebook page, because I need it over on Citizen Space Force. If I can get on Citizen Space Force, would be great. And I can. Let me just get it over to Citizen Space Force. There's 5,000 people over on Citizen Space Force who can watch us from there too. Boom, there it is. We have so many friends and followers. This is streaming out to about 37,000 followers. We hope a couple of you show up. Now, I don't know if Facebook, I think Facebook, I can't receive the comments from Facebook, so I'm going to only see comments from YouTube. We'll put this, we'll hide that question, but we're going to save it for later. Yep. Says we've got good audio and video. Jersey's in for the show. Love him. Love Jersey. Love Jersey, Jersey Dolphin. Okay, so how should I best approach split screens? Yep. What was even going to do? Banners. Wish I could shrink that. I guess I can't. That's fine. I know what's going on. But I want to open up this other window. This window over here. No. So I can get some content about what's going on. Now, I guess, some of this discussion is going to be about the congressional hearings on UAP, right? And I just was reading something yesterday about, they kind of, I don't want to have hearings just to be thought of as a way to introduce the discussion. Hearings aren't a way to introduce a discussion. Hearings are a way to discover the root cause of the problem. It's going to be great because I did a lot of root cause analysis and KPI indexing and all that other stuff for my recent project. But I read in an article how, it was so great. We had these congressional hearings and it gave us an opportunity to reveal that there was a topic that needs to be discussed. I don't think it was really that way because the folks who were on that hearing were quite direct in the fact that in the end, if you added it all together, something's going on and we must find out immediately. Right? Well, I've reached out to the Rear Admiral retired. Yeah, who's a Rear Admiral? Retired. He has a hard last name, but he was the guy all the way over to, if you're pointing at the four men, he was all the way over to the left. I believe he was in a military dress or not. But I reached out to him. We're going to get to speak to him in August of 2025. He's got a book coming out. But what's interesting about this guy, we were talking about UAP activity in the sky. He's the CEO of an underwater corporation. And it's interesting because we have to understand that these UAP have been tracked underwater, have been seen entering and exiting waterways, ocean particularly, but I'm sure, if you can go into a fjord and get pretty deep. So this Rear Admiral, we're going to talk to him. We're going to find out what his name right here. We'll put it on the four guys at the congressional hearing on UAP. Okay. news. See if we can get some news. Congressional hearing. Opening for 29 days ago. And this is from Forbes. And, there's not going to be one single news outlet that's not going to report in one way or another about UAPs. It's the hot topic. Watch replay of the public hearing. I guess, can I, I wonder how I can translate these. Can I translate these links back into chat? Let me open that up. Oh, where's my chat though? Comments, no, there they are. Can I get this back up? I can. I can get in two places. Put it up here too. I can't click on it. All right. I'm going to shrink that. There's comments. So the congressional UFO hearing featuring eye-opening UAP claims on Forbes. There was a very X-Files vibe going to a congressional hearing into an unidentified anomalous phenomena on Wednesday. Witness testimony included eyebrow-raising claims about the existence of UAPs and alien technology on Earth. The hearing was focused on testimony with little substantive evidence behind some of the more extraordinary claims. The House Oversight Committee Joint Subcommittee hearing was called Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Exposing the Truth. The hearing aimed to further pull back the curtain on secret UAP research programs conducted by the United States government and undisclosed findings they have yielded. The four witnesses were retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Tim Callaudet. That's who I'm going to have interviewed in the next 180 days or so. He's already said that he would. Former Department of Defense official Luis Elizondo. Mr. Elizondo is a well-known UFO, UAP researchologist, and he has his website that you can find. NASA UAP Independent Study Team member Michael Gold and journalist Michael Schellenberger. You can watch a replay of the whole hearing. You scroll down a little bit. There's a video to watch. Now, what is the UAP? And Forbes is going to try to describe to us what a UAP is. And I guess we can just read that because we're killing some time getting warmed up before Avi gets on. What is UAP, man? UAP is a hot term, right? The term UFO and the UAP right in front of us. UAP is a hot new term that encompasses unidentified flying objects, better known as UFOs. UAP tries to avoid some of the alien-soaked stigma of the term UFO. In its broader sense, it can also include objects for activities spotted in the sea or in space. See, the sea. C. Can hear a lot about sea. I don't know if you all seen the video when they were taking a picture of a deep water squid, right? And all of a sudden, flash cuts through the screen, just like that. Bright, reflective, appears to be discus in shape, like points too fat, like that. UAP does not necessarily imply a connection to aliens from beyond our planet. And okay, we can keep going because I can stop every sentence. A Pentagon UAP probe earlier in the year found no evidence of extraterrestrials or government cover-ups of extraterrestrial technology or contact. Still, the report noted many UAP sightings remain unidentified. The Pentagon has taken some steps to be more transparent about UAPs in recent years, including releasing videos of Navy pilot encounters with unidentified objects. Tim Gallaudet. Tim Gallaudet. So this is going to be the Rear Admiral. Gallaudet called out UAPs as a safety risk for Navy pilots. They were, yes, he was acting as the chief meteorologist for the Navy at the time of the 2015 Go Fast encounter between a Navy pilot and a UAP. That footage was one of the videos officially released by the Navy in 2020. Gallaudet accused elements of the government of engaging in a disinformation campaign designed to discredit UAP whistleblowers. His testimony didn't use the word alien or extraterrestrial, but he mentioned a new realization that we are not the only advanced intelligence in the universe. Gallaudet called for greater transparency around UAPs, and that's what we're going to talk to. Yeah. Luis Elizondo. Elizondo's testimony was even more direct. The former DoD official claimed the U.S. and some of its adversaries are in possession of UAP technologies. He said excessive secrecy has been used to hide the fact that we are not alone in the cosmos. Elizondo called for a national UAP strategy that would promote transparency. He also asked for protections for whistleblowers. From who? Aliens? Mr. Michael Gold. Gold is a former NASA administrator focused on space policy. He was part of an independent study team that issued a 2023 report recommending NASA play a prominent role in studying and collecting data on UAPs. Gold specifically said he was speaking for himself and not as a representative of NASA or his current employer, aerospace company Redwire. I have to look up Redwire. Gold called for greater NASA participation in the study of UAPs. Data is the lifeblood of NASA and science in general. Without data, nothing can be achieved, he wrote. This is why the stigmatization of the UAP phenomena is so harmful. The stigma prevents scientific inquiry, the best tool that we had to understand anomalies from being fully applied. Gold hoped that more public NASA involvement would reduce the stigma of reporting and studying UAP incidents. Michael Schellenberger. Schellenberger's extensive written testimony accused the government of not being transparent about UFOs. He revisited statements made by others, including former military intelligence official David Grush, who claimed the U.S. government had retrieved alien spacecraft. Grush had not provided evidence to back up that extraordinary accusation. Schellenberger noted there may be other explanations besides extraterrestrial origin for UAPs, including hoaxes, birds, drones, or natural occurrences like ball lightning. I know who I'm not talking to. The bulk of Schellenberger's written testimony is a timeline of UAP events. Like most of the other witnesses, he called for greater transparency from the government. We deserve the truth, he wrote. What this all means for UFO fans? Well, you get more content like Collision Course with Avi Loeb, who was supposed to be on the congressional hearing but was not actually called, but he did write a transcript, and there is a video on the YouTube Collision Course, Francis Walsh, where you can hear Avi's take or what his written transcript covered in video format. I wonder if I can go grab that and drop that, right? What is this? I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. Can I just go to YouTube? Take a second to go to YouTube, folks. Right, and see if I can just grab what I want. Can I grab a link of what I want? Okay. I want to go there. I guess can I go to YouTube Studio? And what would I do there? I want my videos. Publish videos. Unheard testimony. Yeah. What happens here? View on YouTube. Okay. Now I'm going to copy it. Let's see. I can share my screen. How do I share my screen? I can share my screen, Jersey. How do I do it? Do 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 do. How do I share my screen? I know I can do it. Comments, banners, brand, cinema layout, picture in picture, screen layout. Where's that screen? What? Man. I don't know what to do. I could want to share my screen though, because I know I can. Hmm. Oh. Music. Man. The hell is that? Oh, do I take this somewhere? Uh, Bummer. Do anything for me. Boo. Boo, boo, boo. I'm going to search it. Boom. Boom.
Accountability, whether I am available to testify before the U.S. Congress. Over the past few months, I was asked multiple times by staff of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability whether I am available to testify before the U.S. Congress on unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. As a result, I cleared my calendar for November 13, 2024, and prepared the following written statement. At the end, I was not called to testify before Congress, and so I am posting below my intended statement. The Galileo project under my leadership is about to release this week unprecedented results from commissioning data of its unique observatory at Harvard University. 500,000 objects were monitored on the sky, and their appearance was analyzed by state-of-the-art machine learning algorithms. Are any of them UAPs? And if so, what are their flight characteristics? Unfortunately, the congressional hearing chairs chose not to hear about these scientific results, nor about the scientific findings from our ocean expedition to the site of the first reported meteor from interstellar space. Stay tuned for the first extensive paper on the commissioning data from the first Galileo Project observatory, to be posted publicly in the coming days. Here's my public statement. Following the discovery of the first interstellar object, Oumuamua brightness variation, animation of rotating Oumuamua brightness variation, animation of rotating Oumuamua changed by a factor of 10 as this football field-size object tumbled every 8 hours. These extreme brightness variations implied that Oumuamua accelerating away from Sun, interstellar object moving through space, fast-moving space object at stock at distribute _ equally. This mysterious object accelerated away from the Sun without signs of cometary evaporation and receded from Earth faster than any human-made rocket. A similar push by reflection of sunlight was detected 3 years later for another object, 2020 SO, which was verified to be a rocket booster from a 1966 launch by NASA. In addition, archival data from sensors aboard U.S. government satellites indicated that on January 8, 2014, a meter-sized object from outside the solar system collided with Earth. The bolide, called IM-1, was moving relative to the Sun faster than 95% of nearby stars and exhibited material strength beyond all documented meteorites in NASA's CNEOS catalog. Its interstellar origin was confirmed by the U.S. Space Command in an official memorandum to NASA's Science Mission Directorate, dated March 1, 2022. The anomalies displayed by these first two ISOs triggered my curiosity on whether any of them might have been manufactured technologically by an extraterrestrial NASA-like agency from a distant star. The puzzling appearance of unfamiliar objects close to Earth was admitted publicly by U.S. government officials. Reports on UAPs from the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, led in 2022 to the establishment of a new office under DNI and the Department of Defense called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. The official statement from AARO so far is, to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. There is a world in which both ET-related witnesses and AARO officials are sincere. In that world, some UAPs are unrecognized by U.S. national intelligence agencies, but the vast majority of them are human-made. Retrieval and reverse engineering programs do exist. These programs study crash sites of vehicles produced by adversarial nations, and any recovered biologics are terrestrial in origin. The concentration of UAPs near nuclear or military assets is a natural byproduct of espionage. Some of the advanced technologies displayed by UAPs are unknown to U.S. corporations and labeled as anomalous just to hide the confusion about their terrestrial origin. In that world, the apparent vulnerability of the U.S. to national security threats explains why the Department of Defense would suppress disclosure of related details. Any public admission on the unknown terrestrial origin of UAPs would serve the military interests of adversarial nations who produce them. However, from a scientific perspective, even if 1 in a million objects in our sky is of extraterrestrial origin, its discovery will change the future of humanity. The US government is not tasked to discover what lies outside the solar system. This is my day job as an astrophysicist. Scientific quality data is key for clarifying whether some of these anomalous objects represent extraterrestrial technologies. Given the enormous interest in this possibility by taxpayers, federal funding agencies such as NSF, NASA, DOE, or DoD should allocate funds to related scientific research. We have been searching for ET radio signals for 64 years, but such searches are equivalent to waiting for a phone call. Alternatively, we could also search for packages in our backyard from a sender that might not be alive anymore. Additional work is needed to understand why Oumuamua-like objects and UAPs in its data stream. A common regard this question as irrelevant, since it is always beneficial to know the truth about our cosmic neighborhood. Humanity went through a similar learning experience when Nicholas Copernicus and Galileo Galilei used scientific evidence to infer that we are not at the physical center of the universe. Today, this knowledge allows NASA to reach other planets. We would never reach these planets if we assumed that they move around the Earth. On February 18th, 2024, I gave a public lecture in Torun, Poland, the birthtown of Nicholas Copernicus, during an official celebration of 550 years to his birth. The title of my lecture was The Next Copernican Revolution, which might imply that we are not at the intellectual center of the universe. In that case, extraterrestrials might serve as better role models for a prosperous future than our elected officials. 2 days earlier, I made a presentation about the scientific search for extraterrestrial technological civilizations at the 2024 Munich Security Conference. The back-to-back scheduling of these events signifies the two facets of UAPs and unidentified submerged objects, which carry important implications for either national security or our place in the universe. Here's hoping that federal funding will be allocated to scientific research that will answer open questions on national security and extraterrestrials. We owe the answers on both fronts to the public. Thank you so much for your attention.
Well, all right. That would have been, but still is, Avi's testimony to the congressional hearing on UAPs. And I've been able to figure out how to do screen sharing. And I can leave it there, and I can go to the different places that it wanted to be, including the fours, wherever that is. I can put that up there. No, but it's still doing YouTube. Interesting. That's where the frame is. So I got to end that frame. Stop the screen. That screen is out. All right, well, we're coming into our first full hour of the Collision Course show that's going to feature Avi Loeb. In an hour, we're going to be talking all things UAP. We're going to be talking all things extraterrestrial, interstellar. He's written books with titles Interstellar and Extraterrestrial. I do need to pull that stuff up. Maybe just do Amazon. There you go. See what pops up. And we'll do extraterrestrial. That's an Audible. Try $4. Come back over here and go to the comments. What did I show it as? I should have been a joke. I don't know what that is. That one. You have to do one at a time, so I had to put that up. And that's on Audible. Search for Avi Loeb's extraterrestrial book. You'll be able to hear that on Audible, I think, for no dollars. And then I'm on the stop screen. Preset. Share screen. Don't show this again. I want to see that again. And there's Interstellar. I need to also be able to tell you more about Avi, besides being a great guy that he is, to come on. I don't think I can do it. No, it's going to hit a button. I'm going to take this off, but we can get that book. We can do that later. We'll remove. Come back to a full. Yeah, that's just kind of BS there. I don't know what was going on there. I hope everyone's doing okay. I see three viewers, and that's okay. I hope everyone's having a great day because we're going to talk about UAPs with Avi Loeb. Avi Loeb, if you didn't know, this is going to be my fourth interview, my fourth talk. We're basically friends. We get to talk. It's been 7 years, 4 times. Every 2 years, we get a chance to talk to each other, which means I get a chance to send him an email, and he gets a chance to reply, yeah, Francis, we'll have a discussion for Collision Course, and I'm always so happy. But this time we're going to stream it live using our through StreamYard, which is awesome because StreamYard is making it great. I'm able to stream here on YouTube. I'm able to stream on Facebook. Boom, boom, boom. And to all the people who are here watching, I'm much appreciated. Now we're up to 4. As we get closer to noon, we're an hour away, an hour and 12 minutes away from Avi Loeb and myself talking about UAPs, interstellar, extraterrestrial, Oumuamua, Comet Borisov, Meteor 1M, IM1. IM1 is the interstellar meteor number 1 that Avi traced all the way to off the coast of Papua New Guinea, where they dropped a big old magnet down to the bottom of the ocean floor and drug it across the floor and came up with some spherules with interesting ingredients. Those spherules are 1 millimeter size spherules made up of interstellar material, maybe technological interstellar material, maybe. I have some questions. We got 2 hours. I don't know how much talk we can get through. It's gonna go pretty fast once we get going. I know what 2 hours goes like, and it's fast. Avi Loeb is the head of the Galileo Project too, and the Galileo Project is about a super sensitive sensor device located in different parts of the world, located around the world, hopefully, in different locations around the world with high technology sensor technology that can track, trace, identify what to date has been unidentifiable aerial phenomena. That's what the Galileo Project is. He's the head of the Galileo Project. He's the founding director of Harvard University's Black Hole Initiative, director of the Institute for Theory and Computation at the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, and the former chair of the astronomy department at the Harvard University. I'm messing this so bad. And the former chair of the astronomy department at Harvard University 2011 to 2020. He chairs the advisory board for the Breakthrough Starshot Project, and is a former member of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. And I'm going to have to take much better care doing this. And a former chair of the Board on Physics and Astronomy of the National Academies. He is the best-selling author of Extraterrestrial, The First Sign of Intelligent Life Beyond Earth, and a co-author of the textbook Life in the Cosmos, both published in 2021. According to the New York Times Magazine, he's the world's leading alien hunter. From acclaimed Harvard astrophysicist and best-selling author of Extraterrestrial comes a mind-expanding new book explaining why becoming an interstellar species is imperative for humanity's survival and detailing a game plan for how we can settle among the stars. In the New York Times bestseller, Extraterrestrial, Avi Loeb, the longest-serving chair of Harvard's astronomy department, presented a theory that shook the scientific community. Our solar system, Loeb claims, had likely been visited by a piece of advanced alien technology from a distant star. This provocative and persuasive argument opened millions of minds internationally to the vast possibilities of our universe and the existence of intelligent life beyond Earth. But a crucial question remained. Now that we are aware of the existence of extraterrestrial life, what do we do next? Are we aware? How do we prepare ourselves for interaction with interstellar extraterrestrial civilizations? How can our species become interstellar? Now Loeb tackles these questions in a revelatory, powerful call to arms that reimagines the idea of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations, dismantling our science fiction field visions of a human and alien life. Encounter Interstellar provides a realistic and practical blueprint for how such an interaction might actually occur, resetting our cultural understanding and expectation of what it means to identify an extraterrestrial object. From awe-inspiring searches for extraterrestrial technology to the heated debate of the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena, Loeb provides a thrilling front-row view of the monumental progress in science and technology currently preparing us for contact. He also lays out the profound implications of becoming or not becoming interstellar in an urgent, eloquent appeal for more proactive engagement with the world beyond ours. He powerfully contends why we must seek out other life forms and, in the process, choose who and what we are within the universe, combining cutting-edge science, physics, and philosophy. The book Interstellar revolutionizes the approach to our search for extraterrestrial life and our preparation for its discovery. In this eye-opening necessary look at our future, Avi Loeb artfully and expertly raises some of the most important questions facing us as humans and proves once again that scientific curiosity is the key to our survival. So that's who we get to talk to in an hour. Avi Loeb, for the fourth time. The Interstellar, the book Interstellar. That's our target. I think I want to play. I want to play this. I'll play this again. You know, I was talking about AI videos earlier. Let me say this. I hate the music. Fuck.
Over the past few months, I was asked multiple times by staff of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability whether I am available to testify before the U.S. Congress on unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs. As a result, I cleared my calendar for November 13, 2024, and prepared the following written statement. At the end, I was not called to testify before Congress, and so I am posting below my intended statement. The Galileo project under my leadership is about to release this week unprecedented results from commissioning data of its unique observatory at Harvard University. 500,000 objects were monitored on the sky, and their appearance was analyzed by state-of-the-art machine learning algorithms. Are any of them UAPs? And if so, what are their flight characteristics? Unfortunately, the congressional hearing chairs chose not to hear about these scientific results, nor about the scientific findings from our ocean expedition to the site of the first reported meteor from interstellar space. Stay tuned for the first extensive paper on the commissioning data from the first Galileo Project observatory, to be posted publicly in the coming days. Here's my public statement. Following the discovery of the first interstellar object, Oumuamua brightness variation, animation of rotating Oumuamua brightness variation, animation of rotating Oumuamua changed by a factor of 10 as this football field-size object tumbled every 8 hours. These extreme brightness variations implied that Oumuamua accelerating away from Sun, interstellar object moving through space, fast-moving space object at stock at distribute _ equally. This mysterious object accelerated away from the Sun without signs of cometary evaporation, and receded from Earth faster than any human-made rocket. A similar push by reflection of sunlight was detected 3 years later for another object, 2020 SO, which was verified to be a rocket booster from a 1966 launch by NASA. In addition, archival data from sensors aboard U.S. government satellites indicated that on January 8, 2014, a meter-size object from outside the solar system collided with Earth. The bolide, called IM-1, was moving relative to the Sun faster than 95% of nearby stars, and exhibited material strength beyond all documented meteorites in NASA's CNEOS catalog. Its interstellar origin was confirmed by the U.S. Space Command in an official memorandum to NASA's Science Mission Directorate, dated March 1, 2022. The anomalies displayed by these first two ISOs triggered my curiosity on whether any of them might have been manufactured technologically by an extraterrestrial NASA-like agency from a distant star. The puzzling appearance of unfamiliar objects close to Earth was admitted publicly by U.S. government officials. Reports on UAPs from the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, led in 2022 to the establishment of a new office under DNI and the Department of Defense called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. The official statement from AARO so far is, to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. There is a world in which both ET-related witnesses and AARO officials are sincere. In that world, some UAPs are unrecognized by U.S. national intelligence agencies, but the vast majority of them are human-made. Retrieval and reverse engineering programs do exist. These programs study crash sites of vehicles produced by adversarial nations, and any recovered biologics are terrestrial in origin. The concentration of UAPs near nuclear or military assets is a natural byproduct of espionage. Some of the advanced technologies displayed by UAPs are unknown to U.S. corporations and labeled as anomalous just to hide the confusion about their terrestrial origin. In that world, the apparent vulnerability of the U.S. to national security threats explains why the Department of Defense would suppress disclosure of related details. Any public admission on the unknown terrestrial origin of UAPs would serve the military interests of adversarial nations who produce them. However, from a scientific perspective, even if 1 in a million objects in our sky is of extraterrestrial origin, its discovery will change the future of humanity. The U.S. government is not tasked to discover what lies outside the solar system. This is my day job as an astrophysicist. Scientific quality data is key for clarifying whether some of these anomalous objects represent extraterrestrial technologies. Given the enormous interest in this possibility by taxpayers, federal funding agencies such as NSF, NASA, DOE, or DoD should allocate funds to related scientific research. We have been searching for ET radio signals for 64 years, but such searches are equivalent to waiting for a phone call. Alternatively, we could also search for packages in our backyard from a sender that might not be alive anymore. Additional work is needed to understand why Oumuamua-like objects and UAPs in its data stream. A common question is, can humanity handle the truth? I regard this question as irrelevant, since it is always beneficial to know the truth about our cosmic neighborhood. Humanity went through a similar learning experience when Nicholas Copernicus and Galileo Galilei used scientific evidence to infer that we are not at the physical center of the universe. Today, this knowledge allows NASA to reach other planets. We would never reach these planets if we assumed that they move around the Earth. On February 18, 2024, I gave a public lecture in Torun, Poland, the birth town of Nicholas Copernicus, during an official celebration of 550 years to his birth. The title of my lecture was The Next Copernican Revolution, which might imply that we are not at the intellectual center of the universe. In that case, extraterrestrials might serve as better role models for a prosperous future than our elected officials. 2 days earlier, I made a presentation about the scientific search for extraterrestrial technological civilizations at the 2024 Munich Security Conference. The back-to-back scheduling of these events signifies the two facets of UAPs and unidentified submerged objects, which carry important implications for either national security or our place in the universe. Here's hoping that federal funding will be allocated to scientific research that will answer open questions on national security and extraterrestrials. We owe the answers on both fronts to the public. Thank you so much for your attention. Unclassified, the Department of Defense All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, Fiscal Year 2024. Consolidated Annual Report on Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. Information Cutoff. June 1st, 2024. Unclassified. This report is provided by the Department of Defense in response to a requirement established in 50 U.S. Code 3373-K. This report covers unidentified anomalous phenomena reports from May 1st, 2023 to June 1st, 2024, and all UAP reports from any previous time periods that were not included in an earlier report. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office received 757 UAP reports during this period. 485 of these reports featured UAP incidents that occurred during the reporting period. The remaining 272 reports featured UAP incidents that occurred between 2021 and 2022, but were not reported to AARO until this reporting period, and consequently were not included in previous annual UAP reports. AARO resolved 118 cases during the reporting period, all of which resolved to prosaic objects such as various types of balloons, birds, and unmanned aerial systems. As of May 31st, 2024, AARO has an additional 174 cases queued for closure, pending a final review and director's approval. As of the publishing date of this report, all 174 cases have been finalized as resolved to prosaic objects including balloons, birds, UAS, satellites, and aircraft. Many other cases remain unresolved, and AARO continues collection and analysis on that body of cases. It is important to underscore that to date, AARO has discovered no evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology. None of the reports AARO received during the reporting period indicated that observers suffered any adverse health effects. U.S. military aircrews provided 2 reports that identified flight safety concerns, and 3 reports described pilots being trailed or shadowed by UAP. To date, AARO has no indication or confirmation that these activities are attributable to foreign adversaries. AARO continues to coordinate with the intelligence community to identify whether these activities may be the result of foreign adversarial activities. AARO's ability to resolve cases remains constrained by a lack of timely and actionable sensor data. AARO continues to address this challenge by working with military and technical partners to optimize sensor requirements, information sharing processes, and the content of UAP reporting. AARO is also expanding engagement with foreign partners to share information and collaborate on best practices for resolving UAP cases. This consolidated annual report is provided by the Department of Defense in response to a requirement established in 50 U.S. Code Section 3373 K1A, not later than 180 days after the enactment of the FY 2023 Intelligence Authorization Act and annually thereafter for 4 years. The Director of the Office shall submit a report on UAP to the appropriate congressional committees. As detailed in 50 U.S. Code Section 3373 K1B, each report shall include, with respect to the year covered by the report, the following information: all reported UAP-related events that occurred during the 1-year period, all reported UAP-related events that occurred during a period other than that 1-year period, but were not included in an earlier report, an analysis of data and intelligence received through each reported UAP-related event, an analysis of data relating to UAP collected through geospatial intelligence, signals intelligence, human intelligence, measurement and signatures intelligence, the number of reported incidents of UAP over restricted airspace of the United States during the 1-year period, including analysis of such incidents identified, identification of potential aerospace and other threats posed by UAP to the national security of the United States, an assessment of any activity regarding UAP that can be attributed to one or more adversarial foreign governments, identification of any incidents or patterns regarding UAP that indicate a potential adversarial foreign government may have achieved a breakthrough aerospace capability, an update on the consultation by the United States with allies and partners on efforts to track, understand, and address UAP, an update on any efforts underway on the ability to capture or exploit discovered UAP, an assessment of any health-related effects for individuals that have encountered UAP, the number of reported incidents or patterns and descriptions thereof of UAP associated with military nuclear assets, including strategic nuclear weapons and nuclear-powered ships and submarines. Results of consultation with the Administrator for Nuclear Security regarding the number of reported incidents, and description thereof, of UAP associated with facilities or assets associated with the production, transportation, or storage of nuclear weapons or components thereof. Results of consultation with the Chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission regarding the number of reported incidents and descriptions thereof, of UAP or drones of unknown origin associated with nuclear power generating stations, nuclear fuel storage sites, or other sites or facilities regulated by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. The names of the line organizations that have been designated to perform the specific functions, including response to and field investigations, and scientific, technological, and operational analyses of data on UAP, and the specific functions for which each such line organization has been assigned primary responsibility. A summary of the reports received using the mechanism for authorized reporting established under 50 U.S. Code Section 3373B. AARO drafted this report in coordination with, Under Secretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, ODNI's National Intelligence Manager for Military Integration, ODNI's National Intelligence Council, U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, U.S. Marine Corps, U.S. Air Force, U.S. Space Force, Air Force Research Laboratory, Defense Intelligence Agency, DoD Joint Staff, Department of Energy, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Missile and Space Intelligence Center, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, National Air and Space Intelligence Center, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, National Ground Intelligence Center, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, National Reconnaissance Office, National Security Agency, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Homeland Defense and Hemispheric Affairs, Office of the Assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, Office of the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear Matters, Office of the General Counsel of the DoD, Office of Naval Intelligence National Maritime Intelligence Center, Office of the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear, Chemical, and Biological Defense Programs. As of October 24, 2024, there are 1,652 reports in total. This report covers UAP reports from May 1, 2023 to June 1, 2024, and all UAP reports from any previous time periods that were not included in an earlier report. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, received 757 UAP reports during this period. 485 of these reports featured UAP incidents that occurred during the reporting period. The remaining 272 reports occurred outside of the reporting period between 2021 and 2022, and consequently were not included in previous annual UAP reports. Of these reports, 708 occurred in the air domain, 49 occurred in the space domain, and none occurred in the maritime or transmedium domains. AARO notes that none of the space domain reports originated from space-based sensors or assets. Rather, all of these reports originated from military or commercial pilots or ground observers who reported UAP located at altitudes estimated at 100 kilometers or higher, consistent with U.S. Space Command's astrographic area of responsibility. Of the 757 reports, 392 were from the FAA, which consisted of all of the FAA's UAP reports since 2021. AARO resolved 49 cases during the reporting period, all of which resolved to prosaic objects such as various types of balloons, birds, and UAS. An additional 243 cases were recommended for closure as of June 1, 2024, pending peer review. These cases also resolved to prosaic objects including balloons, birds, UAS, satellites, and aircraft. AARO determined 21 cases merit further analysis by its IC and science and technology partners. Subsequent sections of this report include discussions of notable cases. The remaining 444 cases lacked sufficient data to facilitate analysis and were placed in the active archive, where they will be held for pattern of life and trend analysis or re-examined if additional data becomes available. Archived cases may be reopened and resolved should additional information emerge to support analysis. None of these resolved cases substantiated advanced foreign adversarial capabilities or breakthrough aerospace technologies. AARO is working closely with its IC and S&T partners to understand and attribute the 21 cases received this reporting period that merit further analysis based on reported anomalous characteristics and/or behaviors. AARO will provide immediate notification to Congress should AARO identify that any cases indicate or involve a breakthrough foreign adversarial aerospace capability. Reporting trends of UAP morphologies remain consistent with historical patterns. Unidentified lights and round or spherical or orb-shaped objects made up the bulk of cases in which reports provided distinct visual characteristics. Objects within the other category include unique descriptions such as green fireball, a jellyfish with multicolored flashing lights, and a silver rocket approximately 6 feet long. Of the reports AARO received during the reporting period, 170 reports during the reporting period, or 22.4% of total, contained insufficient or no information to enable a morphological characterization. AARO observed no new trends regarding operating altitudes of reported UAP. AARO notes a continued geographic collection bias based on locations near U.S. military assets and sensors operating globally. During this reporting period, 81 reports originated from U.S. military operating areas. U.S. military assets operating over the East Asian seas provided 100 reports, and AARO resolved 40 of these cases as balloons or UAS. AARO placed the remaining cases in active archive due to insufficient information to facilitate analysis. U.S. military assets deployed to the Middle East provided 57 reports, and AARO resolved 13 of these cases as balloons, UAS, or satellites. AARO reached a preliminary assessment on 2 of the Middle East cases as possible satellite flares and is working with IC and S&T partners to finalize these assessments through the use of advanced modeling. AARO placed the remaining 42 cases in active archive due to insufficient information to facilitate analysis. AARO increasingly receives cases that it is able to resolve to the Starlink satellite constellation. For example, a commercial pilot reported white flashing lights in the night sky. The pilot did not report an altitude or speed, and no data or imagery was recorded. AARO assessed that this sighting of flashing lights correlated with a Starlink satellite launch from Cape Canaveral, Florida, the same evening about 1 hour prior to the sighting. This sighting occurred in the known orbital path of the satellites. AARO is investigating if other unresolved cases may be attributed to the expansion of the Starlink and other mega constellations in low Earth orbit. In many other cases, birds are commonly misidentified as UAP due to sensor artifacts resulting from compression and pixelation that often renders the object as an amorphous blob or orb. Electro-optical and infrared sensor glare can also cause distorted pixelation of the object's true shape. Moreover, full-motion video analysis, consistent with other confirmed examples of birds in flight, commonly display birds as flickering objects. This phenomenon, captured by full-motion video, is indicative of flapping wings. Of the 392 FAA reports received during the reporting period, only 1 report mentioned a possible flight safety issue during the event. In this instance, a commercial aircrew reported a near miss with a cylindrical object while over the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of New York. AARO continues its research into and analysis of this case. AARO received a total of 18 reports from the Administrator for Nuclear Security and Chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission regarding incidents near U.S. nuclear infrastructure, weapons, and launch sites. The Administrator for Nuclear Security and Chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission categorized all of these incidents as UAS. 10 of the reported UAS flew over protected areas for a duration less than 5 minutes. 2 instances involved longer flight times of 53 minutes and 1 hour and 57 minutes respectively. Flight duration is unknown for the remaining 6 cases. 16 cases involved only 1 UAS, while the remaining 2 cases each reported 2 UAS involved in the event. In one instance, the UAS entered and departed the protected area twice. On-site security observed UAS in at least half of the UAS cases. On August 3, 2023, the D.C. Cook Nuclear Power Plant security recovered a crashed UAS that was given to Berrien County, Michigan local law enforcement. AARO has no further information about the crashed UAS. During October 10th to 15th, 2023, USPER BWXT, formerly known as USPER Babcock and Wilson Nuclear Energy Fuel Cycle Facility in Lynchburg, Virginia, observed UAS flyovers for 6 consecutive nights. Only 1 UAS system was spotted in each occurrence, and there is no data on estimated flight duration for each occurrence. AARO is working with mission partners to formalize a process in the event UAP material is captured, drawing on current USG capabilities and operating procedures. AARO received no reports suggesting any observers of UAP suffered any physiological impacts or adverse health effects. The DoD acknowledges that health-related effects may manifest at any time after an event occurs. Therefore, any reported health implications related to UAP will be documented and reported if they emerge. In accordance with 50 U.S.C. Section 3733d, AARO executes a strategic partner engagement program conducting outreach and liaison activities. Components include the DoD, federal, tribal, state, and local law enforcement, counterintelligence, and security agencies, as well as other executive branch entities and foreign partners in support of AARO's UAP mission. AARO continues to work with the military services, combatant commands, and others to support and refine their development of mitigation and response plans, to include robust reporting processes. In May 2023, the Joint Staff issued a UAP GenAdmin message directing combatant commands and services to report all UAP incidents, incursions, and engagements to Combatant Command Joint Operations Centers, Service Watch Centers, and respective counterintelligence elements no later than 96 hours after the event. As designated by the Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence, AARO has partnered with the following organizations to leverage available resources and expertise and establish the scientific and technical foundation necessary to execute the AARO mission. Oak Ridge National Laboratory provided analysis for a material claimed to be from a UAP. Oak Ridge National Laboratory will continue to assist with any future physics-relevant case analysis. The Air Force Research Laboratory provides research on air and spaceborne sensing technology and more general assessments of propulsion, stealth, and other emerging capabilities which may be operational in the next few years. Georgia Tech Research Institute developed the Gremlin sensor architecture, which will be deployed in the first quarter of fiscal year 2025 to support pattern of life analysis. Georgia Tech Research Institute will continue to support sensor architecture analysis, development, and operations. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology Lincoln Laboratory is building prototype data processing systems that can operate on FAA and National Weather Service radar systems to determine the viability in detecting and tracking objects that are currently filtered out of the data. NASA is the focal point for academic research and open source data analysis on UAP topics. On October 31st, 2023, AARO launched the www.aero.mil website, featuring a secure reporting mechanism for current or former U.S. government employees, service members, or contractors who claim to have direct knowledge of purported U.S. government programs or activities related to UAP dating back to 1945 to contact AARO and submit a report. All information shared via this process is protected as personal and confidential and can generally only be shared with AARO staff for the purposes of contacting individuals for interviews. AARO is authorized by law to receive all UAP-related information, including any classified national security information involving military intelligence or intelligence-related activities at all levels of classification, regardless of any restrictive access controls, special access controls, or compartmented special access programs. There is no restriction on AARO receiving any past or present UAP-related information, regardless of the organizational affiliation of the original classification authority within the department, the intelligence community, or any other U.S. government department or agency. The majority of AARO's case holdings remain unresolved due to a lack of data needed to further analysis. Without sufficient actionable data, these cases cannot be researched or analyzed. For the cases that merit further analysis, AARO continues to work closely with its intelligence community, Department of Defense, and science and technology partners to facilitate additional collection and conduct analysis using advanced techniques such as modeling and simulation. AARO continues to work with the services as the most critical executors in detecting, collecting, and reporting UAP. AARO also initiated U.S. government working groups to address UAP in the space and maritime domains. AARO is developing a science and technology plan that discusses how AARO is approaching the UAP problem, set in a scientifically and technically rigorous manner, as described by 50 U.S.C. Section 3733 G. The plan outlines the challenges facing UAP detection and identification, such as a lack of high-quality sensor data and a series of gaps in the scientific knowledge base. The plan presents a way forward on incorporating relevant sensor technologies, advanced data processing capabilities, and maturing the UAP-related sciences to minimize the identified challenges. AARO has begun collections using a prototype sensor system, Gremlin, for detecting, tracking, and characterizing UAP. Gremlin demonstrated functionality and successfully collected data during a test event in March of 2024. The next step for Gremlin is a 90-day pattern of life collection at a site of national security. AARO Science and Technology, in coordination with Oak Ridge National Laboratory, wrote a report from the materials analysis of an alleged UAP and posted the analysis on AARO's website. Future efforts include publishing requested supplemental data that further supports the report assessment. AARO Science and Technology has published a number of educational reports identifying key artifacts that arise from sensors, including parallax effect and Starlink flaring, producing performance characteristics of phenomena seeming to exceed state-of-the-art capabilities, leading observers to perceive and report these sensor artifacts as anomalous phenomena. AARO Science and Technology continues outreach across government, industry, and academia through multiple efforts, including participating in National Science Foundation-sponsored workshops, speaking at conferences, and working with entities like the Office of Science and Technology Policy to explore ways to improve whole-of-government coordination activities. AARO updates its public-facing website, www.aero.mil, with declassified UAP data and footage, case resolutions, UAP analytic trends, and other information about its mission. AARO's website also hosts the secure mechanism for authorized reporting of UAP programs or activities by current and former U.S. government employees, service members, and contractors. In April 2024, AARO re-engaged on its X account to share information and updates with the UAP community of interest on social media. In March 2024, AARO released its Unclassified Historical Record Report Volume 1 to the public via its website, and AARO's director briefed congressional oversight committees and the media to explain the report's findings at the appropriate levels of classification. In accordance with the department's commitment to transparency on UAP matters, AARO also posted historical documents relating to Kona Blue, a prospective and not approved special access program that was brought to AARO's attention by interviewees who claimed that it was a sensitive Department of Homeland Security compartment to cover up the retrieval and exploitation of non-human biologics. In March 2024, AARO launched an RSpace page for the cleared community and provides monthly updates on its work and findings up to the TS-SCI level to promote increased collaboration and information sharing related to UAP. In spring of 2024, the department reviewed and approved its JNADMIN guidance on UAP reporting and material disposition for public release, which AARO has amplified on its website to promote increased awareness of how service members should report UAP sightings and also how best to handle and transfer all data or recovered material to AARO for analysis. Airborne UAP continue to dominate UAP reporting with 708 of the 757 reports from this reporting period occurring in the air domain. The relationship between AARO and the United States Air Force, including the National Air and Space Intelligence Center and the Air Force Research Laboratory, continues to deepen and expand in terms of collection, analysis, exploitation, and resolution. AARO will continue to develop partnerships across the U.S. government, academia, and commercial communities. Through these partnerships, AARO will expand its sensor technology capabilities, analytic tool suites, and the UAP-related sciences spanning the space, air, and maritime domains. AARO and the National Intelligence Manager for Military are strengthening targeted intelligence community collection to mitigate reporting bias, increase reporting quality, and develop more comprehensive domain awareness. This partnership will help organizations focus on the information they should be seeking from UAP observers to provide valuable, complete reporting for subsequent analysis by AARO and its partners.
All right, well, that was the Department of Defense report. I'm going to turn it off. Let me turn it off. I'll turn it off. It's off. I'm going to segue right away into the Galileo project. Oh no, actually, let's look at Gremlin first. As I was listening to the, let's see if I can pop this. Let's see what this little Gremlin's on. I didn't want to do that. Darn it, I didn't want to do that. And then to stop screen. This is screen, share screen. Let's show the Gremlin. Share. Add the stage. I'll stay on. There we go.
Pushes us forward. At Northrop Grumman, each breakthrough pushes us forward. We are using our expertise in engineering and advanced manufacturing to create a digital thread that links solutions from start to finish, designing integrated digital technologies that are secure, adaptable, and reliable. We are delivering a new reality and solving tomorrow's challenges faster than ever before, and showing the world what was once impossible is now possible.
All right, well, I'm going to get rid of that one. So I want to do the Galileo. Big screen. Because our guest is almost here. Just need to shrink this, close this preset.
What an amazing experience to celebrate the second birthday of the Galileo project 2 years after it was inaugurated in July 2021. Meeting the members of the team and celebrating the accomplishments. A lot of exciting developments, both within the Galileo project and in Washington, D.C., as many of you know. Things that we've never thought may happen do happen.
Right. I mean, there's so much has been said, and maybe some additional perspectives. I'm always the resident skeptic. So it's good to have that spectrum. We all agreed to apply the scientific method rigorously, that only scientific evidence will do. So glad we're here. Glad we're doing the observatories and the more mobile, smaller observatories that maybe at some point could help us find and localize and prioritize sites.
Most recently, we went on an expedition to the Pacific Ocean to look for tiny metallic marbles molten off the surface of the first recognized interstellar meteor when it exploded 20 kilometers above the Pacific Ocean. And the amazing thing is, we found them. We brought them back. We now have more than 720 of them, and we are studying them with the best instruments in the world. Everything was initiated by this letter confirming at the 99.999% the interstellar origin of a meteor discovered on the 8th of January 2014. What came together with this letter was the light curve that showed 3 flares separated roughly by 1/10 of a second from each other. The last flare was at 200 megapascals. The first flare was above 100. And iron meteorites withstand about 50. But irrespective, it's an outlier simply because, given the data, it maintained its integrity to very high ram pressure above everything that you see in the catalog. This object was moving at 60 kilometers per second, which is twice the characteristic speed of stars. And that is rare. This is the sled, and it looks really... It's a very primitive device, if you think about it. It's just like 200 kilograms, a relatively dumb instrument, like magnets, neodymium magnets on both sides. You see them, you will see it closer, but they are screwed into the rubber. And just think about it, such a primitive thing, putting it on the floor of the ocean and just dragging it, like mowing the lawn back and forth, 10 kilometers on it at a time, 1 meter in width. And it went all the way to 5 kilometers in length. The depth of the ocean is 2 kilometers, somewhere between 1.6 to 2.2 in the region that we were exploring. Altogether, it was a very challenging task to look for fragments that are less than a millimeter in size across a region of 10 kilometers length and find them. And these are the tracks that we took. It was very challenging, but we found what we were looking for. That's the amazing thing that LoRa produced based on the yield per unit mass. Okay, so that's the rate of collecting spherules per unit mass. Beautiful spherules inside spherules. Now, there are many more small ones inside, and you can see that it was made of mergers of tiny spheres. I've never seen an image like that. Okay, let's put it this way. It's quite amazing. And so it's you find spheres that were glued together by a droplet that engulfed them and then a bigger droplet engulfed those. So you end up with spheres inside spheres. Here's an example of an unusual one that Sophie found a few days ago.
We have two rack systems that are almost identical, and then we have something called a mesh node, or a node here in the center, with like half-second exposures. You can learn a lot from them, actually. You can build up a lot of interesting statistics on their color, for example, and this is with an
particularly is that it should be self-guided, so that after it does reach a point of interest in the sky or a pointing vector, it can stay locked onto something. Solely, it's a webcam, and its sole purpose was to just figure out if it's working, like if the algorithms and the math is working too.
We went to go and try and generate synthetic data, and we thought, well, this is fantastic because with this approach we can have really fine-grained control over all the positions, the orientations. So you can notice that for the synthetic data, there's a lot more false positives. You can see, for instance, these are just clouds.
Something very critical to our operation is it has to be energy efficient. This ensures the ability of a system to be deployed anywhere rapidly and not relying on too much electricity. Very interesting is the ability to centralize all the captured data into the cloud through various means. One is very interesting is the ability to have monitoring and real-time monitoring and being able to have dashboards.
And in addition to that, we have a working observatory at Harvard that is providing data that we analyze with machine learning software, and we celebrated the amazing results that we already have. The plan is to make copies of this observatory and place them in many geographical locations.
In my talk earlier today, we have developed models of the lenses in order that we can undistort images and figure out where any pixel is pointing in the world frame. And that's really important and will be especially important for triangulation later. We can send that information over to our pan-tilt zoom camera over there in order that it can point and focus on something.
So there's going to be a lot So our detection camera is doing the object detection, tracking, classification. Data fusion engine's tracking it. If there's more objects, you see them in the list. It's doing automatic target recommendation, sending those messages to the PTZ in real time, and it's responding.
Yeah, we were actually done.
Yeah.
There's the object, right?
Yeah.
All right, my name is Andy Mead. I'm an audio engineer, co-lead of the acoustics team on the Galileo project. And this is phase 1.0 of AMOS, which is our acoustic monitoring omnidirectional system. And we're covering the audible bands, we're covering the ultrasonic band, which is above human hearing, and then down below, we're covering the infrasonic band, which is below human hearing. And our system has been up and running for about a year at this point, and we've collected some really solid data with which to build some machine learning models and to do some analysis. So we're prepped and ready whenever we see something anomalous to have this be another bit of data with which to verify.
It's a fantastic feeling to see how ideas that we thought about 2 years ago come to fruition in terms of instruments, in terms of new data. We are clearly changing the world. And at the same time, in Washington, D.C., there are discussions about materials that the US government may have in its possession that may indicate extraterrestrial intelligence, technological origin, and hopefully the Galileo project will find such evidence even before the government puts it forward. So we are all looking forward to the coming months and years and many discoveries to come.
Oops. Once you know, as soon as I was trying to, I got some information. My mic might be low. I'm going to try to adjust my mic to see if I can get it a little better. So bear with me. That was a great video. Yeah. I'm trying to do too many things. We are getting close to showtime. That's the Galileo project. I'm going to start that again. Pause it. I'm going to pause that. It's a great video of Avi and his Galileo project. I want this to be gone. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, now I want to see if I have a edit name a headline. My microphone might be too low. My microphone might be too low. Settings, audio, default microphone. That is the one I'm using. I'm using the Mexico audio. Oh gosh. It's using the camera's mic. Oh gosh, I don't know what to do. Default. Line 1 virtual audio cable, that's not it. Is that any different? Okay, I'm gonna ask testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3, see if I can get a. Oh, you got perfect volume now? Oh, I just changed the volume. Changed the mic. Jack and Jersey. You can comment. I want to test my mic. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. I'm testing, just testing. Thank you, Jack. We're gonna be giving. Oh, oops. Oh. We're getting close to showtime. Oh, just knocked my stuff. My camera's gonna fall off. Let you know what's gonna happen right at the time this all starts. Everything's gonna fall apart. But you know, that's why this is so hard to do. Well, I got a coffee I'm gonna spill and everything too. It's not gonna be good. Goodness gracious, y'all. Okay. I think we're gonna get this one away. Avi's gonna be coming here next 20 minutes or so. I don't know what the best light is. Is that too bright? We got a good picture. You can comment in YouTube. If you comment in YouTube, I'm going to be able to see the comment and I can pop your, like this, I can pop your question out. That's from Jersey Dolphins. Good morning, friends. Mr. Loeb, should you ever get a chance to talk to an intelligent off-planet entity your question, what would you ask? A.E. Van Vogt, Destination Universe. That's autograph. It's in a plastic sheath. It's got a card of mine. Got a signature and a star. I'm gonna give away a little something at the end of the show. Hope I make it through the show. You know, I'm gonna reach out one more time to my buddy Jack. Jack, you tell me everything's good, and then I know everything's good. And I know I'm going to be fine. I'm going to make it through the show because I know my friends are here to enjoy the show. And you're going to be watching it on Facebook or you're going to be watching it on YouTube. You're going to be watching it wherever you get to watch this. Getting our okay right now, or maybe not. I just got to keep my voice up. Okay, I'm rocking it, man. That's awesome to hear because that's what I'm here to do. I've been rocking it hard for a good last 6 months at work, and now I line myself up this awesome interview with Avi, and we're going to roll right into the UAP activity. And what the heck is going on? I need to look up here. What the heck is going on? I'm looking at the video order. What the heck is going on? Right? What's going on with all these New Jersey UAPs? What's going on with the water splashdowns? And we've got to know, and who knows better than we know who knows best. Avi Loeb. He's been our great friend here at Collision Course. Every 2 years we get a chance to reach out to Avi because there's always something new coming on that he's a part of, and we get right to it. We dig into it. We are just 15 minutes away. We showed a great video about the Galileo project. We're going to be talking about that. I might even wink, find a way to be able to submit the observatory's information for review to see if maybe they want to put a Galileo sensor system out there at Cosmic Obsession Kerrville. Wouldn't that be cool? Have Harvard out to the observatory. I'm going to do that today. I got to sell myself, got to sell something. Somebody's got to buy something today. So I hope you're fine. Jersey's got this great question. We're going to lead off. We're going to find a great place to put that in. And I got the great ability to just come in here and say, hey, hi, Jersey. And Jersey's actually the number one fan. Jersey's been the number one fan for 10, 12, for over a decade. I've been hanging around here, there, and everywhere. All right, let's get Jack in here. Jack gave us the good okay. Good morning, Jack. We're just 13 minutes away for our show with Avi Loeb. And let's just hope that I can ask enough great questions that we get the full 2 hours of great information, and Avi comes as a happy guy. Oh, gosh. I got to make sure this platform works. Avi has a link to join me. This is the first time that I've used StreamYard to do a live stream, but this thing's been pretty flawless, and hopefully he's going to just show up there in the studio, and I'm going to just add him to the screen, and it's just going to be easy peasy, and he's going to be able to hear me. God, I hope he's going to be able to hear me, and I'm going to be able to hear him, because that's the way this thing's supposed to work. And I hate to have it mess up on us now, because that just stinks. But I have faith. My faith. Let's put it about that. Soul Surfer. Hello. Okay, so we have to. I know that any government entity is at least a decade ahead in technological advances than it is known by the populace, and it is kept that way due to national security. Boom. Okay, it's just so the government knows at least technology that's 10 years fresher than our knowledge. And I'm going to get with Avi with this. Next, autonomy, autonomy, and autonomous crafts. Autonomous crafts are sent from one place, act as if they're under their own control, and then return to the place they started from. Those type of crafts are going to really twist tweak the tweakers over what's capable, what's real, what's terrestrial, and what's otherwise. I'm here. Hey, Jersey. We'll pop that out. We're going to hide this one. We'll pop this one. And so we have those real hurdles to get over. Government, national security, government knows technology that's 10 years ahead of our time. all those things, and then autonomous active behavior of technology that is 10 years ahead of what we're used to seeing. And then we have to look at how each government now is using it differently and who's using it on who. And when we look at governments on who's using it on who, unfortunately, you, me, and the American Fence Post knows that, well, if you know, you know, more often than not, it's probably not an outside force looking in. It's more like an inside force looking within. So then there's the third problem to get over. Now, Avi, 10 minutes down, 10 minutes and counting. It's like a launch for me, honestly. It's going to be a freaking launch because doing these shows they're not all that easy. We got messages coming in. We got good lucks. Didn't one of our Brown say that Ken Carlsberg that the last card the New World Order will play will be a fake alien? You're right. And listen, okay, so there we go. So we have these, what's the next? What's the, you're here and here, there, in the next place. Our evolution. Are we evolving? What are we evolving into? It's not so much what we're evolving into, right? Are we physically changing? Do you feel your body changing from day to day? No, it's your environment changes, and then you have to react to it, and that becomes the evolving, the root cause of your evolution, okay? And I've been doing a lot of root cause analysis in 6 months, man. I'm up to here with root cause analysis, and everything I think about now is where's the root, what's the cause? So we have technology 10 years ahead. We have 9 minutes and counting, 9 minutes and counting. I should probably save this great conversation for Avi too, huh? I want to lead into Avi. I want to show the Galileo video again. I liked it that much. Y'all hang on with me. We got 8 minutes and counting. Let's see how.
What an amazing experience to celebrate the second birthday of the Galileo project 2 years after it was inaugurated in July 2021. Meeting the members of the team and celebrating the accomplishments. A lot of exciting developments, both within the Galileo project and in Washington, D.C., as many of you know. Things that we've never thought may happen do happen.
Right. I mean, there's so much has been said, and maybe some additional perspectives. I'm always the resident skeptic. It's good to have that spectrum. We all agree to apply the scientific method rigorously, that only scientific evidence will do. So glad we're here. Glad we're doing the observatories and the more mobile, smaller observatories that maybe at some point could help us find and localize and prioritize sites.
Most recently, we went on an expedition to the Pacific Ocean to look for tiny metallic marbles molten off the surface of the first recognized interstellar meteor when it exploded 20 kilometers above the Pacific Ocean. And the amazing thing is, we found them. We brought them back. We now have more than 720 of them, and we are studying them with the best instruments in the world. Everything was initiated by this letter confirming at the 99.999% the interstellar origin of a meteor discovered on the 8th of January 2014. What came together with this letter was the light curve that showed 3 flares separated roughly by 1/10 of a second from each other. The last flare was at 200 megapascals. The first flare was above 100. And iron meteorites withstand about 50. But irrespective, it's an outlier simply because, given the data, it maintained its integrity to very high ram pressure above everything that you see in the catalog. This object was moving at 60 kilometers per second, which is twice the characteristic speed of stars, and that is rare. This is the sled, and it looks really... It's a very primitive device if you think about it. It's just like 200 kilograms, a relatively dumb instrument, like magnets, neodymium magnets on both sides. You see them, you will see it closer, but they are screwed into the rubber. And just think about it, such a primitive thing, putting it on the floor of the ocean and just dragging it, like mowing the lawn back and forth, 10 kilometers on it at a time, 1 meter in width. And it went all the way to 5 kilometers in length. The depth of the ocean is 2 kilometers, somewhere between 1.6 to 2.2 in the region that we were exploring. Altogether, it was a very challenging task to look for fragments that are less than a millimeter in size across a region of 10 kilometers length and find them. And these are the tracks that we took. It was very challenging, but we found what we were looking for. That's the amazing thing that LoRa produced based on the yield per unit mass. Okay, so that's the rate of collecting spherules per unit mass. Beautiful spherules inside spherules. Now, there are many more small ones inside, and you can see that it was made of mergers of tiny spheres. I've never seen an image like that. Okay, let's put it this way. It's quite amazing. And so it's you find spheres that were glued together by a droplet that engulfed them, and then a bigger droplet engulfed those. So you end up with spheres inside spheres. Here is an example of an unusual one that Sophie found a few days ago.
We have two rack systems that are almost identical, and then we have something called a mesh node, or a node here in the center, with like half-second exposures. You can learn a lot from them, actually. You can build up a lot of interesting statistics on their color, for example, and this is with an
particularly is that it should be self-guided, so that after it does reach a point of interest in the sky or a pointing vector, it can stay locked onto something. Solely, it's a webcam, and its sole purpose was to just figure out if it's working, like if the algorithms and the math is working too.
We went to go and try and generate synthetic data, and we thought, well, this is fantastic because with this approach we can have really fine-grained control over all the positions, the orientations. So you can notice that for the synthetic data, there's a lot more false positives. You can see, for instance, these are just clouds.
Something very critical to our operation is it has to be energy efficient. This ensures the ability of a system to be deployed anywhere rapidly and not relying on too much electricity. Very interesting is the ability to centralize all the captured data into the cloud through various means. One is very interesting is the ability to have monitoring and real-time monitoring and being able to have dashboards.
And in addition to that, we have a working observatory at Harvard that is providing data that we analyze with machine learning software, and we celebrated the amazing results that we already have. The plan is to make copies of this observatory and place them in many geographical locations.
In my talk earlier today, we've developed models of the lenses in order that we can undistort images and figure out where any pixel is pointing in the world frame. And that's really important and will be especially important for triangulation later. We can send that information over to our pan-tilt zoom camera over there in order that it can point and focus on something.
So there's going to be a live So our detection camera is doing object detection, tracking, classification, data fusion engines tracking it. If there's more objects, you see them in the list. It's doing automatic target recommendation, sending those messages to the PTZ in real time, and it's responding.
Yeah, we were actually talking.
Yeah.
There's the object right there.
Yeah.
All right, my name is Andy Mead. I'm an audio engineer, co-lead of the acoustics team on the Galileo projects, and this is phase 1.0 of AMOS, which is our acoustic monitoring omnidirectional system, and we're covering the audible band, we're covering the ultrasonic band, which is above human hearing, and then down below, we're covering the infrasonic band, which is below human hearing. And our system has been up and running for about a year at this point, and we've collected some really solid data with which to build some machine learning models and to do some analysis. So we're prepped and ready whenever we see something anomalous to have this be another bit of data with which to verify.
It's a fantastic feeling to see how ideas that we thought about 2 years ago come to fruition in terms of instruments, in terms of new data. We are clearly changing the world. And at the same time, in Washington, D.C., there are discussions about materials that the US government may have in its possession that may indicate extraterrestrial intelligence, technological origin, and hopefully the Galileo project will find such evidence even before the government puts it forward. So we are all looking forward to the coming months and years and many discoveries to come.
All right, everybody. Avi's almost here. I just got a little message from Avi. He's a couple of minutes delayed. No worries. Well, no worries at all. I think we've gotten through about as much as we can do. So I'm gonna sit back. Avi's gonna be here in a couple of minutes. I'm gonna look. Jersey, thank you very much. I'm gonna try to raise my voice. I'm gonna see if I can get the microphone and everything in a place where everybody get the best chance at a good sound. Hopefully when Avi gets here, I can be able to, I'm shaking. I'm going to talk to Avi Loeb. Woo, woo. I hope you all are having a great day. I'm going to have a great day because I'm going to have accomplished and be successful at another task that I give myself. I always give myself. Oh, awesome. Sounds great. Thank you, Jersey. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Soul Surfer. We're just going to have a great conversation, and the conversation is going to be left behind here on YouTube and on Facebook and all the places that are going to capture it. And you're going to get to watch it live, and we're going to get to hear from Avi, all his take on this UAP. I think I have to maybe, because there's so much content, I may have to break it up, because I may have to start with Spheros, because Spheros would be the third interstellar object that he and I have spoken about. Interstellar object, a meteor, which is given the name designated IM1, which is interstellar meteor 1, number 1, because it's the first interstellar meteor. I guess it was captured on film. I mean, captured in an exposure by maybe machine learning, and we're going to have to find out exactly. Probably, I bet that it was discovered through machine learning. Machine learning looking back through old captures. Listen, our telescopes, the scientific telescopes, take every available moment of clear dark sky to take images of the night sky. Maybe at that time, that scientific research dives into one segment of universal research, and then these exposures hang around till another set of eyes, or now it's going to be AI gets a hold of them and says, okay. And so Avi had followed the facts of this object after the object had been revealed through images taken previously. That's out. Kind of pale. I got a warm one. I don't know if the warm one's better or not. Boom. Guess we'll just leave it on there. Boop, boop. And then so I am one. So I am one. We're going to talk about spherules because spherules are pretty interesting, and they have there's spherules that were discovered with IM1, and there are spherules that are discovered in other locations around the world, and so we're going to get a chance to talk about those. Because yes, as I'm researching Avi's spherules, I discovered that there are more spherules around the world and the globe, and so maybe a consideration to those spherules are warranted as well. And then we got the Galileo, and then we have UAP. I don't know how I'm going to break that in because it's hard to. I don't know if I can blend in spherules with UAP, though the spherules play an important role in the UAP research as far as intelligent technology that may have or may not have entered into our atmosphere from outside the outside solar system, interstellar solar system. So we're just waiting for Avi to come on. We have the okay, that sounds great. Everything sounds great. All I got to do is make this, if this StreamYard works like it's all pumped up to, then it'd be great because I got a great image what I'm looking at. Right? And I may play that Galileo video again before we start talking about it. And then we're just going to dive in. The facts are the facts are the facts. And our research here it is. When we played the DOD, when we played the DOD's video, the video created by the DOD report on UAP, the DOD and AARO, we're going to talk about the AARO because, boy, didn't I find the AARO really interesting when I heard it in that DOD report. And basically, and we're going to, I'm going to hold, I'm trying to let cats out of the bag. I don't want to let cats out of the, oh, there's Avi. Avi's here. Avi's here. Avi, can you hear me? No. Let me just see. Let me try this. I want to try this. First, I'm going to do this in wave.
Good to see you.
Avi, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Avi Loeb, thank you for appearing one more time on Collision Course. It's me, Francis. I love you for coming on. I'll say that right away. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I love having these every 2-year meetings with you because there's so much to talk about.
Right.
Just plain and simple, just so much to talk about. And I was just saying right before the show starts that I was trying to decide how I'm going to break up the discussion. I know it all ends up in the same place, right? But when we talk about our objects that are interstellar in nature, and then our objects that we're catching in this terrestrial UAP reality, are kind of separated from the two right now. Now, I want to talk about the interstellar objects, and then I want to translate over to the UAP objects, AARO, your testimony that you have online, but we're unable to make. So you know where I'm going.
Yes. Ask me anything.
Okay. Avi, I could take 5 minutes and read. I don't want to do that. Avi Loeb, everyone, this is Avi Loeb, Harvard professor of science, Frank B. Baird Jr., professor of science at Harvard. He takes part in a number of fantastic, interesting projects. He's written thousands and thousands of interesting papers. And go look, Avi Loeb papers. Everyone is interesting. You can't find one that's not. So I'm going to Thank you, Avi, for coming on.
Oh, sure.
I want to start the show, and everyone knows that it's going to be watching, that is watching, that we've discussed interstellar objects in the past, beginning with Oumuamua, and then we led into Comet Borisov, which really wasn't so exciting, and now I have to jump right into our 1M1 because you spent a long time, and you still are, researching an object, the first meteor to come into our atmosphere, and it disintegrated above the ocean off the coast of Papua New Guinea. And I hope I say Papua. I don't.
Papua. Yes.
Papua. Okay. Off the coast of Papua New Guinea. Would you tell me and just lead into this research? And where I want to start is, when did you get the first astronomical information, which means somebody had to find it on an astronomical image, and how does that get you off the coast of Papua New Guinea?
Right. So first, let me explain what an interstellar object is. It's basically an object that is moving too fast to be bound by gravity to the sun. We are all familiar with the possibility of launching a rocket that is traveling faster than the escape speed from Earth. And of course, if we launch it with too small of a speed, then it falls back down. We've seen that demonstrated in recent experiments with Starship. It was not launched fast enough to escape the gravitational pull of the Earth, and then it fell back. So we see objects for the first time over the past decade that are moving too fast to be bound by gravity to the sun. And as you mentioned, the first reported one was Oumuamua in 2017, discovered by a telescope in Hawaii. By chance, it was roughly the size of a football field. And a couple of years later, I realized that there is, in fact, a catalog of meteors. These are objects that are colliding with Earth by chance. And this catalog was based on data collected by US government satellites. So the US government, over the past decade, they developed an array of satellites that is monitoring the Earth, mainly for ballistic missiles that pose a threat to national security. And they can, within seconds, detect the heat from ballistic missiles. In fact, we are all aware of Iran launching ballistic missiles, in April, and most of them were recognized as soon as they were launched. And so this array of satellites is looking for heat deposited in the atmosphere. And every now and then they see an object colliding with Earth and inducing a fireball, basically a release of energy that is very often once a year as large as the Hiroshima atomic bomb energy. I don't know if you knew, but an object roughly a meter in size or the size of a person, when it comes into the atmosphere, it releases the same amount of energy as an atomic bomb, their Hiroshima atomic bomb. But it doesn't cause much damage because most of the collisions result in an explosion very high up in the atmosphere at around 50 kilometers altitude. So there is not much damage on the ground. So at any event, we looked at this catalog that is basically the data that the US government releases to NASA simply because they realize that these events may be of interest to astronomers, but are not of interest for national security. So they're not classified. And we found an event with my student, Amir Siraj. We found an event back on January 8th, 2014, that indicated a speed of an object that is well above the escape speed from the solar system. In fact, when you extrapolate back in time, the object was moving at 60 kilometers per second outside the solar system, faster than 95% of the stars in the vicinity of the sun.
That's faster than Oumuamua, right? Oumuamua was like 32,000 a second.
Yeah, Oumuamua was basically at rest relative to the frame of the Milky Way galaxy locally.
The buoy in space.
Yeah, exactly. And this one was moving at 60 kilometers per second.
Oh, is that a speedboat? a speedboat through a
Well,
speedboat?
60 kilometers per second is what a car is making in the highway in 1 hour. The distance that a car traverses in 1 hour is traversed by this object in 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. So at any event, this is faster than 95% of the stars near the sun. And moreover, the object exploded at an altitude of 20 kilometers above the Pacific Ocean, where the density of air is much greater than typical places where meteors explode. There was another one recently, for example, in April above Spain and Portugal, and that exploded at 70 kilometers, where the density of air is 1,000 times smaller. So this shows you that this object was at least stronger by a factor of 1,000 compared to the meteor over Spain this year in April. And so, in fact, it was tougher than all the meteors in the catalog, hundreds of them. That suggested to me, at least, that perhaps it's artificial in origin, because if we imagine the Tesla Roadster car that was launched by SpaceX in 2018, you know, it's now on an elliptic orbit around the sun. Elon Musk used it as a dummy payload on the Falcon Heavy launch. He just wanted to put something heavy on top of the rocket, and he put his car. And now the car is moving around the sun. And in 20 million years, it might collide with Earth, according to calculations. And then, of course, if my colleagues would see it, astronomers, without being aware that it's actually a car, they would say, well, it's a rock of a type that we've never seen before. And it would have material strength that is probably tougher than typical space rocks. And so I was curious to figure out if this meteor, interstellar meteor, that we call the IM1 for the Interstellar Meteor 1. IM1 is also I am the first. We wanted to figure out whether it's artificial or natural. And so to find out, I planned an expedition to the Pacific Ocean, and we rented a boat. It was an expedition that cost $1.5 million. There was a Netflix filming crew with me. So by the end of 2025, in a year from now, there will be a Netflix documentary that you can see and watch what happened there. But basically, we were on the ocean for 2 weeks, and we used the sled covered with magnets that we lowered to the ocean floor, which was about a mile deep at that location. We went to the site of the fireball where the meteor exploded. And that object is estimated to be roughly 0.5 meter in size. And we were looking for tiny droplets that were melted off the surface of the object when the explosion took place. And we actually collected 850 such molten droplets. And out of them, about 10% showed material composition that was never reported before in the scientific literature from solar system materials. There were some elements that were very different than found in the Earth crust or the Moon or Mars. They had an abundance of up to 1,000 times more than the primitive materials that made up the solar system. And we said that it's possible that these materials that we collected came from outside the solar system. In fact, it's an independent evidence that the object was interstellar. But to find out more about the nature of the object, we want to go back again in summer 2025 to look for bigger pieces in the wreckage. This additional mission will cost $6.5 million because we are planning to use a robot that has arms and a video feed that allows us to see what we are picking from the ocean floor. So far, we haven't received the funding that we need. We have a ship waiting, but if we don't receive funding within the coming weeks, we might lose that ship. And I very much hope I'm trying to get the attention of wealthy individuals that might be contributing to the mission. I regret that at a young age, I put all my time into academic research rather than making money, because if I had the money, I would fund it myself.
Yes. That's what most great men, they have the greatness, but the fun sometimes, it's terrible that money keeps us from the great things. That's
Yeah,
what really
well,
happened.
so far that was not a limitation, but with this expedition it might be. We shall see. So anyway, we also have another interstellar meteor that we are thinking about of going after. And in general, it's this is a class of objects that we can explore, and it's much cheaper. It's only at the level of millions of dollars to find the materials. Whereas if we saw an interstellar object passing near Earth and we wanted to jump on it and retrieve some materials from it, it would cost billions of dollars to do that. So it's much cheaper to find these objects after they collide with Earth. And I hope that will open up a new frontier in the future.
I was just going to what I was looking for, and I got to cancel this out. Is we had showed before you had come that the Galileo video that's posted, and we had a chance to actually see the slides of the spherules and the spherules inside of spherules, and and that we got the chance to see the ship and the sled with the screws and the magnets that all went in. So now, compositional wise, right, when we're talking about what separates the spherules from anything else, what was the most interesting makeup? Was it iron rich? Is it iron that's playing a part?
It's mainly iron because we selected those spherules with magnets. Okay, so they had to be magnetized, and iron is the element that is selected by that. But we found those special spherules enhanced in abundances of beryllium, lanthanum, and uranium.
Right.
And so, that raises interesting possibilities. But it's also possible that the object was natural in origin, and those elements were differentiated from, for example, in the crust of a planet like the Earth, where if the surface is molten, if it's a lava ocean planet where it's heated to very high temperature, that is possible. It's possible to separate these elements. And I considered a possible origin that is natural for those elements. For example, near the most common stars that are low mass stars, about 1/10 of the mass of the sun, if you bring a planet like the Earth close to these stars, they're so dense that they rip the planet apart. And then you can eject into interstellar space
materials
from the crust of the planet that could be enriched in these elements. So that's a natural origin. Of course, the press was not particularly paying attention to this paper, but they were more intrigued and for clickbait by the possibility that it might be artificial. But we hope to find out in the next expedition.
Now, when we showed the video from the Galileo project, because I had read on the spherules earlier, but actually the video on the Galileo project made it even more interesting because they talked about the spherules inside spherules, and then they showed another one where it had more of a geometrical shape to it next to a spherule, which had just been discovered. Can I ask you a question though? Because I've been researching spherules, so there's spherules in the KT boundary when that asteroid struck. Is there a similarity to be made at all or not?
Yeah, I mean, in both cases, you had a big object that collided with Earth, but the object that we are talking about, is only 0.5 meter in size. And such an object collides with Earth, from interstellar space once a decade. From the solar system, every year. Every year you have a few of those. In fact, there are 1,000 rocks from the solar system that collide with Earth for every one object from interstellar space. So that's why if you go back to archives of meteorites that exist, it would be difficult to pick up those that are interstellar because most of them would be from the solar system. We are basically immersed in rocks that were left over from the formation of the sun. But every now and then something comes from outside. And, my main interest is in finding artifacts, technological debris some space trash from another civilization among the rocks that should be there. And their trash is our treasure. These are objects that collide with Earth simply because they're not functional anymore, even if they are technological in origin. And there is a whole different class of objects that we will talk about, the UAP, where the possibility is that they are actually functioning.
Okay. Before we start talking about the UAPs, because I think that might take up a lot of time, I just want to remind folks, Oumuamua was very intrinsically interesting, and we touched on it quickly when we got on here. And just imagine Oumuamua. I know most people can think about the object, and we talk about moving fast. But when we talk about moving fast relative to how fast everything else is moving, meaning your solar system and the stars that are connected to your solar system, they're all moving, we're all moving. Oumuamua's pace was that of what would be a buoy in the ocean waiting for a solar system like ours to pass by. That's what made it very, very interesting. Very interesting.
It's interesting that you point this out. That was one aspect of it that was unusual. But in addition to that, the amount of sunlight reflected from it changed by a factor of 10 as it was tumbling every 8 hours. And that's quite unusual. It meant that it has an extreme shape. And when you try to fit the variation of sunlight as it was tumbling, you find that it was most likely at the 91% confidence disk-like, which is very weird.
In the time of Oumuamua, I had a talk with Miss Karen Meach, and she was the scientist in Hawaii who might have been the first person to have the information given to her. And we talked about reflectivity, and we talked a little bit about reflectivity. And I said, well, when we talk about reflectivity, are we talking the reflectivity of charcoal or reflectivity of sand? And with that question, she wasn't quite sure how to answer it, but then she said, well, we weren't looking at it that way. We were looking at it for brightness. So as it rotated, it was getting brighter, which made it harder to determine whether it was reflective or not.
To figure out the reflectance, how shiny it is, you really need to know the size of the object. But there was limited data on Oumuamua. If the next object appears like Oumuamua, and we can discover it with now there will be, starting in 2025, there will be a new survey telescope called the Rubin Observatory in Chile that will employ a camera with 3.2 gigapixel, and it could find Oumuamua-like objects every few months. And with that detection, we could look at some of these objects with the Webb telescope. And I just submitted a proposal to the Webb telescope that for a target of opportunity, if we find such an object, we can actually triangulate using observatories on Earth and the Webb Observatory, which is 1 million miles away, and we can pinpoint the location of the object very precisely, and also its trajectory. We can figure out if it has any propulsion, and we can also infer its size, because we will detect the heat emitted from its surface and also measure its temperature. So we would know everything about it. We will figure out the reflectance. So hopefully, if we find more objects that belong to the same family, Oumuamua is like if you were to sit in a bar and you see an interesting person and you're curious about this person, but the person leaves the bar into the dark street before you had a chance to get more information. You might be looking for family members that will give you more information. And so that is what we hope to do with the Rubin Observatory. And altogether, I think that the more data we get, the better we know whether the object was artificial or whether it was natural in origin, because definitely it was very peculiar. There was no cometary evaporation, and nevertheless, it had non-gravitational acceleration. Something was pushing it. And I suggested that it's just a reflection of sunlight, and the object is very thin and flat. And in fact, a few years later, they discovered an object that was pushed by reflecting sunlight in September 2020, and it was given the name 2020 SO. And it turned out that this was a rocket booster launched by NASA in 1966, and it had thin walls. So here you have an example of a technological object that resembled the qualitative features of Oumuamua and was technological in origin. So that is a possibility we must consider for Oumuamua. Now, I should say that, just let me finish the argument. A few days ago, there was a paper that was published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, led by Daryl Seligman. Now, Daryl Seligman, in this paper, is talking about dark comets. These are comets that we know exhibit non-gravitational acceleration, but we don't see their coma. We don't see their cometary tail. And so in the explanation for why this paper is significant, Seligman and collaborators argue, well, because maybe, it's just like Oumuamua. It was dark and nevertheless was pushed by outgassing that we can't see. Now, the only point that they are not really sincere about is that the level of acceleration in this population of dark comets that they talk about, and there are a dozen of them, the level of acceleration is at most 100 times smaller than Oumuamua exhibited. In fact, Oumuamua, if it was a comet like any comet, should have lost 10% of its mass in order for it to get the type of push that it exhibited. And losing 10% of the mass of a 100-meter object, the size of a football field, would definitely result in a coma or a cometary tail that we can see. And actually, if you consider the least accelerated dark comet, it's 1,000,000 times. It has an acceleration that is 1,000,000 times smaller than that of Oumuamua. So just think about a dark comet and amplifying the level of evaporation, outgassing in it by a factor of 1,000,000. Would it remain dark? Probably not.
That's very inefficient.
For them to suggest that Oumuamua belongs to the same population of dark comets. I mean, these dark comets are just, the low acceleration end where there is not much evaporation, and you just can't see the very weak coma around the comet. But to argue that Oumuamua, that should have lost 10% of its mass, belongs to that population is just inappropriate. I mean, the same Daryl Seligman for 5 years wrote papers that argue that Oumuamua was a hydrogen iceberg, a chunk of frozen hydrogen, so that when the hydrogen evaporates, then you don't see it because it's transparent. And I showed that in a paper with a colleague of mine, Tim Huang, that such an iceberg would not survive the journey in interstellar space from the birthplace of molecular clouds, because just sunlight, starlight, would evaporate it very quickly. Starlight from the Milky Way galaxy.
Space weather.
Yeah, and so he agreed with that. In fact, we don't see any hydrogen icebergs. We don't see chunks of frozen hydrogen. There is no evidence for them in interstellar space because they evaporate if they ever existed, and if they start small, they have a larger surface per unit volume. So they would evaporate even more quickly than a 100-meter chunk. So at any event, we don't see them, we don't have any evidence for them, and we don't expect them. And he was arguing for 5 years that it might be hydrogen related. And now he puts this paper about dark comets. And again, it's very confusing because people think, oh yeah, that explains Oumuamua, but in fact it doesn't, even though they say that it could belong to the same. No, it doesn't, because these dark comets have a level of evaporation that is between 100 to 1,000,000 times smaller than was needed to explain Oumuamua's acceleration.
Which basically you're saying is that all the comets they wanted to use as a comparison were 1,000,000 times less efficient than Oumuamua was at tumbling and capturing sunlight or whatever was pointed at it to move it in a way. And what all brings this together with Avi as well is your work with the Breakthrough Starshot Initiative and light sails. And you understand how we went from a cylinder to more of a pancake tumbling, and how that pancake allowed it to be more efficient in its motion through. That's how I really see it. If I wanted to look
Right.
at it and take it for the most physical form, it was this. It was more efficient 80% of the time and able to make that motion.
Yeah, it could be a light sail, but it could also be a surface layer of a technological object that was torn apart, or a broken piece of a Dyson sphere. That's another possibility. But at any event, nature doesn't make flat, thin objects like that. At least we don't know of a process that does it. And all of the discussions you will hear about from the mainstream that worked on space rocks is that it's a rock of a type that we've never seen before. It's a hydrogen iceberg, a nitrogen iceberg, or a dust bunny, a collection of dust particles that are very loosely bound and 100 times less dense than air. All of these have problems, all of these explanations. And what I find surprising is not the fact that there are many possibilities and none of them was verified. It's the fact that the mainstream resists even considering the artificial origin. That's what bothers me, because we should be open-minded. We sent trash to space, trash equipment to space that will not be functional, like Voyager, Pioneer, New Horizons. Once they exit the solar system in 10,000 years, they would leave the Oort cloud. At that point, they would not be functional anymore. So we definitely are polluting interstellar space. It will just take 10,000 years for that to happen. And the sun is a late bloomer. Most stars form billions of years before the sun. And by the way, it takes about 1 billion years for the Voyager spacecraft to move from one side of the Milky Way galaxy to the other. In other words, relative to the sun, it would be on the opposite side of the disk of the Milky Way in 1 billion years. So
we also have to. I guess I also have to bring up the paradox of if intelligent extraterrestrial civilization was sending out space probes. Okay, let's look at it as a space probe. That in the end, there's a fact about. So if Oumuamua was a space probe, it might be an old version, like a Voyager version, right? Now that, and in fact, the next probe we may see would actually be older technology than Oumuamua would be, and maybe we have interacted with technology that was much fresher technology than Oumuamua was, but right before. So it's a very paradox to know where you're dealing with, and if it was alien technology, what level of their alien technology are you dealing with?
Right. I mean, the abundance of objects of different types depends on how long civilizations spend in different evolutionary stages of their technologies. Eventually they might put goggles on their head and live in the metaverse, the way Zuckerberg envisions our future. And then they would not be interested in traveling to space because they would be completely separate from reality. Or if they take recreational drugs, they will not fly into space and just perish on their home planet. That could be an answer to Fermi's paradox. Where is everybody? They're high on psychedelics or something, and they don't really go into space. I mean, that's possible,
but that may not be their fault entirely. They're there, but they are set up. They're set up for that. There are people that are set up.
But if you think about those civilizations that are really geared towards exploring space, because they realize there is much more real estate beyond their home planet. The Earth is just a rock that carries a few millions of the mass of the sun left over from the formation of the sun. And there is so much real estate out there that, in fact, we don't live in the best neighborhood. And you might imagine those civilizations that behave like migrants. They were born on some planet next to some star, but they realized that there are better places to live in. And so they moved to other places. And those civilizations are the ones that we are more likely to find the products of in our vicinity. We can, of course, go and visit planets, and we might find most of the time, animals on trees if we end up finding planets with life on them. But there is also those rare civilizations that manage to escape their home planet and send equipment that we might find near us that will save us the journey. And that's what I'm looking for. For 60 years, we've been searching for radio signals. That's the traditional approach of SETI. But that's just like waiting for a phone call. Nobody may call you when you're waiting. And the answer to Fermi's question, where is everybody, is the answer you give to every lonely person. You need to be proactive. You can't just expect people to come over or partners to show up next to you. You are not that attractive. If they ever look at what we are doing on Earth, they would be very disappointed. They might think that we are not intelligent, really, because we are wasting all of our resources on conflicts, on fighting each other for territories, for feeling superior relative to each other. And when you look at the big scheme of the cosmos, that's pretty ridiculous. There is so much out there, and we don't look up very often. If we were to invest, the trillions of dollars that we're spending on military budgets, if we were to invest that in space exploration, within this century, we could send a probe towards every star in the Milky Way galaxy, hundreds of billions of them. So it just shows you that, our current priorities are not in the right place. And my hope is that by recognizing a visitor from another star, we would be inspired. It's just like finding a student that is smarter in the class, that you want to imitate because they give you inspiration. And just seeing the bigger picture and realizing that there is more to expect from life than just the local conflicts on this rock that we all inhabit.
Yeah. And what that kind of means is maybe who we find is better for us as the leading type than what we're dealing with right now, because I know that's how you spoke about it in the Copernicus one. You said maybe when we do, not if, when, maybe they're better. Maybe we're better off with them.
Well, they might be better role models than
role models. Yes.
Yeah. Than what the politicians that we have these days. But to me, it's more about opening our eyes to the opportunities out there. And also, if we find technologies that they developed over billions of years, they may represent our technological future, and it will help us in accelerating our scientific and technological evolution. So I think it's a win-win situation. Now, you might say, okay, well, but it's risky because we don't know whether they exist. We don't know the level of their technologies. But I say, well, we search in the dark in other areas of physics. For example, we don't know what the dark matter is. 85% of the matter in the universe is a substance that we've never encountered in the solar system. And we invested billions of dollars searching for the type of particles that makes up most of the matter in the universe. We haven't found it. The Large Hadron Collider, the fundamental hope was to discover supersymmetry, and the lightest supersymmetric particle was hoped to be the dark matter because it's a stable particle. We didn't find supersymmetry. We didn't find the dark matter. We invested $10 billion in the Large Hadron Collider. Is that a waste? No, because we set better limits. We now know that supersymmetry is not in the natural space of parameters that we expected. And, that's the way science is done. You take risks, and sometimes you don't find what you wish to find because nature is under no obligation to make you happy. That's the whole point. And so if you're searching for the dark matter and investing billions of dollars, I think that we should, as part of the mainstream of science, search for technological objects from interstellar space at the investment of billions of dollars. And if in several decades from now, if we don't find them, we would be exactly at the same point as we are in the search for dark matter right now.
Well, what ends up happening too is called a byproduct. Okay, like when you say with the Hadron Collider, they haven't found dark matter, but what are the byproduct finds from that research that they're doing? There is a benefit.
Right. Well,
that result.
That goes to Pascal's wager that I discussed in my book, Extraterrestrial. And so Blaise Pascal, the philosopher mathematician, French philosopher mathematician, he argued that you cannot avoid discussing the concept of God because, if God exists, the implications would be tremendous. So you have to weigh in the significance of a positive result. And I argue the same is true in the search for technological artifacts from other civilizations. The benefits would be so great that it's worth the risk. And the fundamental question is how much to invest. Okay, when you make risky propositions in the business world, you have to weigh the level of risk and benefit. And so in the context of astrobiology, the search for life, it is the folklore that we should search for signatures of microbes, like the oxygen and methane in the atmospheres of exoplanets, because people say, microbes originated on Earth very quickly after the Earth cooled. And we know that life started 4.2 billion years ago, and the Earth was made 4.6 billion years ago. So very shortly afterwards, the last universal common ancestor, it's called LUCA, appeared. And that implies that primitive life in the form of microbes is probably very common because it appeared so quickly, and intelligent life took a while, and only over the past few million years, humans came to exist. So you might argue there is a larger barrier for making humans than microbes. But that would simply mean that microbes are much more prevalent, they're much more abundant. You find them many places, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to discover them because their effects are really subtle. But even if you have just one civilization in the entire Milky Way galaxy that was far more advanced than we are, and they were able to send self-replicating probes, it might be much easier to detect that civilization because the signals that these self-replicating probes would deliver are clear-cut, and they cannot be produced by nature. They must be technological in origin. So you have to hedge your bets. And the question is how much funds to allocate it to the search for clear signals from technological civilizations versus very faint and difficult to detect signals from microbes. And my take on that is that it should be a sizable fraction of the budget, at least 10% and maybe even 50%, but somewhere in the range of tens of percent going in the direction of technological signatures. And as of now, the search for extraterrestrial life is focusing 99% of the budget on the search for microbes, 99%. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense because for the reason I mentioned, first let's check what is out there. And there are, based on my calculations, based on the meteor that we discovered from interstellar space, there should be 1 million such objects, 0.5 meter in size, within the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And we can't see them because they don't reflect enough sunlight to be picked up by our telescopes. But they should exist, 1 million objects at this point in time from interstellar space within the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And my point is, if we were to invest hundreds of millions of dollars, we could potentially discover those, and we could check if among the rocks, within the orbit of the Earth around the sun, there are any technological artifacts, and it's worth the effort.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we bump our heads up against: is it intentional? Is this a practice of intention to leave us in this scenario? Because I guess we're going to segue into AARO and the UAP activity that's going on now. We left our interstellar partners, though we may be dealing with interstellar partners in the UAP community. I was able to go through the DoD's report. I've covered all the things at AARO. One, everybody, AARO has a whole lot of power to collect information from every organization in the globe. They have full power to get reports from every intelligence agency. When I read the DoD report, this AARO, I couldn't imagine how much power that is to get that kind of information from anybody at any time, at any place. But yes.
And we should explain that AARO stands for All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office under the Pentagon, the Defense Department, and the Director of National Intelligence.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is, in that DoD report, they said, "Oh, everything is like this, and the only thing we're missing is more scientists and data." Okay, scientists, and so I'm thinking, well, Avi must be the only scientist who probably's got alien technology right now. I know the government's got it, but there's a scientist over here doing all sorts of work and got all these things, and you're right there in your report saying you don't have scientists and data, and that's the only thing missing.
Yeah, this is really strange, and I think it was even more strange when NASA conducted a report, basically a study. There was a committee that was established to address the question of what should be done with respect to unidentified anomalous phenomena that the Director of National Intelligence reported about. And that committee was established after I approached the head of the science division in NASA and said, look, the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson, just said that scientists should be engaged in finding out what the nature of these UAPs is, and I suggested to help them, and then they established instead a committee that looked into it, and it took 2 years since the time I contacted them. I therefore established the Galileo project during those shortly afterwards, and over these 2 years we built an observatory, and the end result of the NASA committee was to recommend that scientists will look into it. We were already doing that. What's the point? And they didn't refer to us explicitly as if we are following actually the narrative that they're recommending. And so this shows you the difference between bureaucracy, administration, versus the people who actually want to do the work.
And where the money goes, because they decided to go with that Gremlin, that sensor, the Gremlin sensor device, rather than your Galileo project. There's another. It's kind of blatant where their thoughts are at, where their money's going, because they just, you have a great project, Galileo project. It's already doing research. You've already got them active and ready. Data coming in. All you need is another 100 places to put them right. And
so we currently have a working observatory at Harvard University, and we are collecting data on 100,000 objects in the sky every month. And we just submitted for publication a paper that summarizes the first 500,000 objects that we looked at with an infrared camera. And we analyzed the data with machine learning software, basically to look for things that are not familiar, because most of the objects are birds, leaves, airplanes, balloons, drones, clouds, things like that. And we use machine learning to train it on objects that are familiar to figure out if there are any objects that move in unexpected ways or have an image that looks unexpected. By the way, again, over the past few days, there were reports about mysterious drones over New Jersey. And these are objects that behave like drones. They move similarly to drones. Some of them are airplanes or helicopters. That was verified by the FBI, according to news reports. And some people asked me, I had many emails, text messages, and interviews where I was asked, do I think these are extraterrestrial in origin? And this morning, I actually wrote an essay explaining that, if it walks like a duck and it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So these are, based on the information we have, they are human-made objects, flying objects. And the fundamental question is whether they, obviously they were not sent by the US military, because the military gives early warning to any police or other law enforcement authorities in the area where it does exercises of this nature. And so it could be that these drones belong to civilians or some adversarial nation, because we know about the Chinese spy balloon that was spotted between January and February 2023. And eventually it was shot down by a missile, and it was clearly used for espionage. It was 45 meters in size, a very big balloon at a high altitude. And so it's clear that the intelligence agencies are not doing their job perfectly, that there are things flying over the United States. And at least in the case of the balloon, it was clear that it was done for espionage. And I wouldn't be surprised, if some of these drones are being sent by an adversarial nation with the same agenda, or they might be completely innocent, that belong to some citizens. But we have to find out just from the perspective of national security. And I don't think they are particularly interesting from the point of view of UAPs, because they don't have anything anomalous about their behavior. They look just like drones. And so someone asked me this morning and said, well, but it's the duty of a scientist like yourself to figure out what they are. And I say, no, I can spend my life chasing ghosts. I mean, people will tell me, oh, there is something strange, and it will end up being a balloon. Actually, I got an email half a year ago from a photographer, a wedding photographer. And he said, I have to sign you on an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, to show you an amazing photo of the best image of a UAP. And I said, I'm not signing any non-disclosure agreement. If you want me to figure out what it is, you should just share it with me. No, he said, well, but okay. So eventually he sent it. And then we looked at it with members of the Galileo project, and we realized that it's actually a napkin flying in the wind based on all the data that. And so, people have this tendency of imagining and
scientific.
Yeah.
The mind.
The mind, yeah. And Richard Feynman said something very true. He said that, I can read it for you. Just one.
That's okay. Go ahead.
1 second. I'll find it.
So definitely it's, people that they ask you that question. Well, why look at this? As an intelligent mind that's skeptical first and then scientific next, you are able to put a wall in between what's obvious and what still needs to be looked at.
And it's really important to attend to the facts. I explained to that person, I'm not in the entertainment business. I'm not supposed to entertain you and not to be bored. If the answer that I think is most likely is boring, I will tell you that. I'm not trying to make you entertain. That's not. I'm doing science, and Richard Feynman said we must be careful not to believe things simply because we want them to be true. And no one can fool you as easily as you can fool yourself. And this is true in private life as it is in science.
But you may be the only person to discover the truth. So you still have work to do.
Exactly. What I mean? So the key is not to get distracted by things that have, very small probability of being anomalous, because everything we know about these drones is that they behave in ways that look like drones. Okay. And the issue of whether they belong to adversarial nations is something that the Director of National Intelligence should worry about. And I'm sure they know more about these drones. If they are from a Chinese origin, they have to decide whether to shoot them down or do something else. But I'm sure they know already.
Can we step now back to the congressional hearing? Because now we have a different level of testimony. So we're getting we're hearing from a different type of credentialed person who's speaking on a particular topic to the congressional hearings.
Right.
One being the retired Rear Admiral, Mr. Gallaudet.
Right.
I find him very interesting because he's also the CEO of an oceaneering company.
Yeah, he was the director of NOAA in his past. Yeah.
And he will talk. He's got a book coming out in August, and that's when I get to talk to him in August. So yeah. Lucky for that. But we also have to remember we have a air, sea, ocean, aqua scenario environment that we're dealing with as well. So
right.
So we're taking the congressional hearings. These all four men are very serious. They're not joking around.
Right.
They're telling what they have to tell. And at the same time, they're saying, we need to find out. And the sooner we find out, the better off we'll be. You know, and when you hear men talk like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the last one says, "And we need to do it right now." It kind of, you know, the stuff over New Jersey doesn't seem as important than the things that they're talking to me about.
Because you have to realize that things like were spotted over New Jersey were never spotted decades ago, right? When the technology of drones was not that developed, objects like that were not seen. So it's clearly a result of us developing drone technology most recently. And drones are used in the battlefield in Ukraine. You know, they are the future of battlefields. So, and you know, in particular, China has accelerated the technological developments of drones. And even Iran has these drones that were given to the Russians in the war in Ukraine. So drones are very much used nowadays, and you shouldn't be surprised to see them over the sky in New Jersey. Now, if you were to see them 50 years ago, you should be surprised. Okay. Now, what these testimonies talked about are technological objects that were recovered in crash sites that are not human-made. That's the claim. And the supplementary claim is that they are currently held by perhaps corporations like Lockheed Martin. That's the claim. Now, I should say, I respond to evidence. And if someone says something and they haven't really worked on these materials or seen directly the evidence, I don't know what to make of it, because maybe they were given information that is not reliable. Okay, it's possible that some people wanted to confuse them.
I want to highlight the one thing, though. There was one military, naval military activity where they were hounded by UAPs for day after day after day.
No, that's definitely the case. There were events where technological equipment appeared, and the question is whether it's human-made or extraterrestrial. That's the scientific question. So to me, it's not clear. It's not clear that it's not human-made. Okay,
right.
because
that's how we have to. That's why each one's got its own little breadbasket, right? Each one has its own list of facts. These are the facts for the drones over New Jersey. These are the facts that are being reported by the testimony, and then these are the facts of what actually occurred at that training, at that thing. And you know, and that's why you just take it from level of nonsense to sincerity to true facts.
But you know, the thing that really will change things is if there is any equipment that was not manufactured by humans that is held in a basement of some corporation like Lockheed Martin. That was the claim made by some of these whistleblowers. In that case, you know, the reason that, you know, I would like to know whether it's true or not is because it would save me a lot of time. You know, right now I'm doing my best to look at interstellar objects as an astronomer. Of course, if I do that for decades, I might find some evidence. But it may be that the evidence is already here. You know, if it has nothing to do with national security, if it came from outside the solar system, you know, it should be shared with scientists. However, I don't know if it exists. That's the whole point. And hearing from people who heard things or saw things that other people wrote is not sufficient. And I really don't have solid evidence that the government or any related corporation has those materials.
Okay, so then the only place to go is, where do we go from here? And I guess where we go from here are sincere scientists and projects like the Galileo project. So let's have an update. Let's have an update from the Galileo project.
So the Galileo project we built following the report from the Director of National Intelligence back in 2021. I inaugurated the Galileo project in July, a month later of 2020, a month after this first report came, and because I haven't heard from NASA back then, and we were working for 3.5 years on building an observatory It took us a couple of years to assemble all the components because it's an observatory of a type that astronomers never used before. We look at the entire sky, and typical astronomical observatories focus on a small portion of the sky at any given time. So we are looking at all the time at the entire sky, and we are focusing on near objects that are passing overhead. And so we had to build it from scratch, and it took us a couple of years to bring the necessary components together, design the system properly, and then another year to test the components, make sure that we understand how they work and calibrate them. And finally, the data analysis for another half a year. And then last month, we were able to submit for publication a paper talking about the first commissioning data of 500,000 objects. And this sets the basis for the future operation of this observatory. And we hope now within the coming weeks to establish copies of the observatory separated by a few miles. Now, why is that important? It will allow us to triangulate. If there is an object in the sky, we would be able to figure out its distance. And distance is extremely important because if you don't know the distance, you can think that the object is big when it's actually very close to you. You might think the object moves very fast just because it's close to you. If you don't know the distance, you will overestimate things or underestimate things. And that's why we want to triangulate. That will be the next phase. And moreover, we are building 2 copies of these observatories at other locations, one in Pennsylvania and the other one in Nevada. And altogether, we hope to get 3 working observatories by summer 2025. And
we have an observatory in Central Texas. We have an observatory in Central Texas.
No, you have a lot of observatories, astronomical observatories, but as I said, we develop a different design for the observatory that we are using.
I've seen it.
And we so we are limited by funding, and each observatory costs about $1 million to build and operate. And
that's high.
$1 million, and so we will have by summer 2025. We hope to have 3 of them, and they will provide us with a few million objects every year. And we will do the scientific work needed to figure out if any of them is anomalous.
Well, machine learning is going to help us. I'll tell you personally, I've used AI, which has made me more intelligent when I needed it to be. Forgive me, whether or not. I had a big project over the last 6 months that was technical, and honestly, AI helped me through some real hurdles technically, and I cannot say enough about it. People say, but use it, you'll find out you can become smarter using it. Other than that, using machine learning to look at images, I was a part of the astronomical search collaboration for asteroids. They have the AISC where you can join up and get the images from the whichever telescope, and I spent about 3 years doing that, and so I know exactly what it's like to look at images and look for.
I should say now AI is much better than it used to be on machine learning as well, and it's evolving exponentially on a few years time scale. And so I think the AI will help us a lot, and especially given that we will have a large flow rate of data, and the more data we have, the better trained our models would be.
Yeah, the only problem is that some people will give the totally wrong prompts. I mean, they're going to send AI off in the wrong direction in a place that's not good for humanity. Right. There'll be those good and those that are not good.
I should also mention that there are 2 types of products that you expect from the research that we are doing. One is statistical. We would say, we looked at 1 million objects, none of, a certain fraction of them move in some ways, a smaller fraction is unidentified, but we will just put statistical limits. Then there is the second type of products, which are much more exciting, where we would notice an object that is behaving in ways that are completely off the scales. It would be an outlier, and then we would dedicate a paper just to that object. And I find the second type far more exciting if we find any. So far, we don't have such an object because we don't have triangulation that allows us to see how unusual the objects are.
So you're just talking about parallax? You haven't caught in parallax?
Yeah, it's just the same principle that is responsible for us having two eyes.
Yeah.
You know, the presumably,
eyes.
yeah, animals that had one eye could not gauge the distance of a predator, and they were eaten up. So why do we have two eyes? Because it helped for survival, and we can assess the distance by looking at the same object from different directions. So if the object is far away, you know, the view from the two eyes would be more similar. If it's very close to us, you would get very different views of the object. So that is the principle of parallax, or the of triangulation.
We did the parallax with Eros 403, the golden asteroid. They had a Eros parallax program a bunch of years ago. We were part of that. That was fun. So that's why I know parallax. I have a question, and it's up there. You know, the question is, Mr. Loeb, Avi, if you were actually to come in contact and meet an entity that was not from Earth, have you ever thought about what that question would be, the first one?
Oh, yeah, definitely. What happened before the Big Bang? Now, why do I bring this up? It's because, first of all, it will give us a hint as to how to unify quantum mechanics and gravity, which is one of the biggest puzzles, unsolved mystery of modern physics. And that, you know, there are hundreds of physicists working on this subject for half a century. Actually, Einstein started thinking about it and couldn't really resolve the problem. And we are not even close to a theory that is predictive. And so if they tell us what happened before the Big Bang, we would perhaps be able to reverse engineer quantum gravity, because if you just use Einstein's theory of gravity, that is the best theory we have to describe the universe, it breaks down when you go back in time to the Big Bang, because there is a so-called singularity when the density of matter and radiation diverge. And Einstein's theory breaks down, we can't use it, and we know why. It's because it doesn't include quantum mechanics, and the effects of quantum mechanics become important close to the singularity, and they resolve the singularity. There shouldn't be a Big Bang singularity, there should be something else happening. And if we knew what it is, by the way, we could have had the recipe for making our universe. So just think about it. If you have the recipe for a cake, okay, which tells you all the ingredients that you need in order to make a cake and how to put them one after the other, in what, you know, and in which procedure you should put them together, and how much heat to apply and so forth. If you had that recipe for a cake, you can make a cake, or at least dream about making a cake. So if we had a recipe for making our universe, you know, we can apply for the job of God, because what is the definition? What is the job description? It's being able to create a universe, right? According to traditional religions, God was responsible for making our universe. What I'm saying is we would have a path to unifying religion with science. And it's possible that an alien technological or scientific civilization reached that milestone of knowing the recipe for making a baby universe. And if they tell us that recipe, you know, it's as if we meet God in some way, because, you know, if they can create a baby universe, it comes with everything inside of it. You know, that there is nothing better than that.
I would have never thought of that question. I honestly, I did not think that question would have been the first question out of your mouth. But you know, that question is going to stick with me now. That's going to become a part of me now, believe it or not, because my brain is going to be on the recipe for the.
I mean, it's important for me to bring it up because I may not be alive to encounter the first extraterrestrials, you know, and if a younger person would be around at that time, they can ask this question.
And when you said when we get the recipe, we may unify, but when you said that, you know what I thought of? It may erase. It may erase all the divisions. It may, you know what I mean? And then in that erasure of division lines, you end up with one thing that everybody can associate themselves with. Because right now we have so many division lines between us by that knowledge. But now here's one.
But let me just bring one more point. Just think about the story in the Old Testament, the Bible, about Moses seeing the burning bush that was never consumed. And that experience convinced Moses that there is a superhuman entity called God. Okay, that just seeing the burning. Now today you can buy on Amazon an electronic device that would have been more impressive than a burning bush, and put it in front of Moses, and Moses would have believed that it's a miracle, whereas we know that it's a product of technology. And what I'm saying is, I would be impressed by meeting a scientist who is a quantum gravity engineer that knows the recipe for making a universe. For me, that would be the ultimate level of intelligence, because, and actually I discuss it in my book, Interstellar, I don't define levels of intelligence or technological sophistication on the Kardashev scale. The Kardashev scale is related to how much energy is tapped by a civilization, whether it's using all the energy from the host star that it lives next to, or maybe the galaxy that it lives in. This is the Kardashev scale, okay? But for me, it's not about energy. It's about your ability to create the environment that you are born into. So if you can create, for example, if you are born next to a star like the sun, and you can create your own artificial sun because you know how to make a fusion reactor, you know, that's an advance. And then you can imagine creating life. You know, you were born in a natural habitat that created life, you know, out of random processes, and now you're able to create life, synthetic life, in the laboratory. That's another advance. But the ultimate level of my scale of intelligence is being able to create a universe.
I'm going to have to interject. My son, love my boy Sean, he works for a company. His company works with scientists from NOAA and defense companies. And what their company does is they interact with the mainframe computers of Google and Amazon, because their computers are so big, they rent out segments of their computers to NASA and NOAA. And the company that my son works for is actually takes the science simulations, puts them into the computer, and then that, you know, makes that connection. So in reality, you know, one day, one of those programs can kick off inside the computer, the simulation that, for all purposes, for the people inside the simulation, is an environment within its own, because that data is going to come back. You know, you're going to get data back that's going to read. That's what's going on.
Right, but I do make a distinction between what is inside a computer or a thought experiment, which people regard as a simulation, and the physical reality that we all live in. I mean, just to clarify, you can imagine that you have $1 million in your bank account, okay? And that will give you pleasure. But if you go to the ATM machine and you find that you have only $1,000, you will be unhappy. And there is a difference between having $1 million in the physical reality that we all share and having $1 million in your imagination, in a simulation. Why? Because you can't use it to build things in reality. You can't really buy a home just by telling the agent that, you know, you imagine that being true, but it, you know, what matters is really that you have the cash in reality, okay? And so I would make it clear, I mean, some people think that we live in a simulation. I don't think so. I haven't seen any pixelization of the reality, the physical reality that we all share. Haven't seen a crash, a computer bug. To me, the physical reality is really out there, and it's under no contract to make us happy. That's the main difference. And, you know, if you think about the mistakes we made in the past, we thought that we are at the center of the universe. Why? Because it was flattering to our ego to think that we are at the center. It was also useful for the church to argue that, you know, this is the reason that God pays attention to us, because we are at the center. And of course, they got more subscribers to this view from the public. But when Copernicus, who was a priest, realized that in order to predict when Easter takes place, you know, a much better model is to put the sun in the middle of the solar system. You know, his book was banned until the 19th century, but the church used his model to predict when Easter takes place because it worked. Okay, and so eventually, you know, the church in 1992 admitted that both Copernicus and Galileo were right, and that was 2 decades after humans landed on the moon. Okay, so what I'm saying is there is a difference between wishful thinking and virtual realities and the actual reality that we live. And the job of physicists is to separate the two. And when you have a culture in theoretical physics, like string theory, where for half a century people just work in the virtual world without, you know, mathematical gymnastics, without actually testing the ideas against data, I'm worried that they're headed in the wrong direction. And they're trying to unify quantum mechanics and gravity, you know, quantum gravity. So it's really all about the feedback that we get from physical reality through experiments. That's what allows us to change our opinion, to learn. You know, life in general and science in particular is a learning experience. Anyone that tries to claim we found the answer and that is it, or we know in advance, you know, that we are alone in the universe, things like that, these are anti-scientific statements, because we should be humble. You know, we should not put us at the center. This is called the Copernican principle. We should be humble and assume, in fact, as our default, that things like us existed billions of years ago, and we just need to find them. It's our duty.
It's our duty not to let science get hijacked either. So just like you spoke of how the church, oh, I can use the science, but then I can give you disinformation about the science. You know,
Right.
You know, it's continuing. It hasn't stopped. So you, me, our friends, we have to know who we are and learn what we know and share what we know, and so that our information grows. Because
And that's what makes it fun, right? Because it's a learning experience. Every day I learn something new. If everything, I mean, obviously some people are attracted to honors, awards, and, you know, having a stature, and where nobody doubts that you know the answers and that you are the expert. That's not what attracts me. I just want to learn something new every day, and it's a learning process, you know, to figure out things. But if you think you know the answers in advance without seeking evidence, then you are really stuck, and you may have the wrong ideas about dark matter, the wrong ideas about quantum gravity, and the wrong ideas about aliens. If you're not seeking the data, it's a circular argument where you will remain ignorant.
Avi, I know I said 2 hours, but we're at just about an hour and a half. I think we covered a pretty good job of what we talk about most times, right? There's no need to really beat anything up, because I think we all have a good understanding of what we're looking at if we really wanted to be honest with ourselves. And if you want to come to this show and watch what Avi and I just talked about, what we're being is honest with ourselves. We're not trying to tell you how to be you, or we really don't want you to tell us to be how we were supposed to be, because we understand, at least I understand, I enjoy being a skeptical and, you know, intellectual mind who wants to talk to, and I have great friends like Avi to come on every 2 years. So I'll see you in 2 years. And Avi, you know how much I appreciate you. I want you to know I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
When I'm able to send an email to you and you reply so kindly, you know, I want you to have a blessed holiday season this year. My family is doing well, and I know that you're wishing us the same. I'm gonna take you off the feed. I thank you so much for the hour and a half. I'm gonna spend.
Thanks for having me, and I hope that when we meet in 2 years, we'll know much more.
Yes, and I'll send you an email, just chatting outside the broadcast to thank you so much for coming on, and just leaving you an opportunity to email me back and me to email you back. Avi Loeb, everyone, Mr. Avi Loeb, Professor of Science at Harvard, the best scientist you could know. Thank you very much, Avi. We'll see you until next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm just going to say bye-bye. Thank you. If you can see me, thank you, thank you, thank you. I loved it. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Now I got to get him out of here. Kick from studio. Kick guest. Boom, 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 boom. All right? That's how you do it. That's how the shit gets done. You got something that needs done, you call Francis. He's going to get that shit done. All right? Next up, couple weeks, Jim LeBlanc, NASA scientist, engineer of the space shoot. He went into the vacuum chamber and he fell out. You show up next time, you'll get to hear all about it. Thank you all for spending the last hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't even know how long it's been. It's been a bunch of hours, but it's been a great couple of few hours. Y'all have a wonderful day. I'm out.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning, warning.
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. Down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me.
Collision course. It is essential for our survival to use these powerful tools in the most humane and wise way. And the only way to guarantee that is not to shuffle the responsibility off to somebody else, but to make sure that every citizen understands science and technology to some extent.
Lighten up, Francis.